Infinity is the idea of something that has no end. It stretches beyond limits and cannot be measured or contained. People have tried to understand infinity for centuries. Mathematicians, philosophers, and scientists all have different ways of thinking about it. Yet, no one can fully grasp it because it is not something we can see or touch. It is an abstract idea that exists only in thought and theory. The human mind struggles with the idea of something that never stops. Everything in life has a beginning and an end. I'd love to invite you to share in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's incredible to think about how we're all connected through these stories and ideas. If you enjoy these thought-provoking explorations, consider subscribing to Tired Thinker so we can keep bringing you reflective narratives. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and let your imagination drift as we delve into the mind-boggling paradoxes and mysteries. But infinity does not. Numbers are one way to think about infinity. If you start counting, you can go on forever. No matter how high you count, you can always add one more. There is no largest number. Even if you count for a lifetime, you will never reach the end. Mathematicians use infinity to explain numbers that go beyond what we can write down. They use symbols to show that something continues indefinitely. The most common symbol for infinity looks like a sideways 8. This shows that it loops without stopping. Another way to understand infinity is through space. The universe is vast, and scientists believe it might go on forever. When people look up at the night sky, they see stars, planets, and galaxies. But what lies beyond them? If the universe has an edge, what is on the other side? No one knows for sure. The idea of an infinite universe is hard to picture because everything we see in daily life has boundaries. But if space never ends, then it must be infinite. Even though scientists have powerful tools, they still cannot see the full reach of the cosmos. Time is another example. It moves forward without stopping. Every second that passes becomes the past, and new moments keep coming. Time never runs out. People try to measure time with clocks and calendars, but they are only tools to track it. The flow of time does not stop just because a calendar ends. If you imagine going forward in time forever, there is no final moment. No matter how far into the future you go, more time will come after. That is another way infinity appears in life. Some thinkers have explored infinity through paradoxes. One of the most famous is Zeno's paradox. Imagine a runner trying to reach the finish line. First, they must get halfway there. Then they must go halfway again and again. If they keep cutting the distance in half, they will always have more space to cover. According to this logic, they will never reach the end. Of course, in real life, runners do finish races, but this paradox shows how infinity can create strange problems in logic. Another paradox comes from the German mathematician David Hilbert. He imagined a hotel with an infinite number of rooms. If every room is full and a new guest arrives, can they still get a room? The answer is yes. The manager moves each guest one room over, making space in the first room. Even though the hotel was full, there is still room for more. This shows how infinity does not follow normal rules. In an infinite system, adding something does not mean running out of space. Infinity also appears in science. In physics, black holes have gravitational forces so strong that they seem to stretch time and space infinitely. Scientists say the center of a black hole, called a singularity, is a place where density and gravity become infinite. No one knows exactly what happens inside a black hole, because the laws of physics break down. But the idea that something can reach infinite density shows how infinity plays a role in nature. In the world of art and philosophy, infinity has inspired many ideas. Painters have created images that seem to go on forever, using mirrors or repeating patterns. Writers have explored endless journeys, dreams without end, and worlds that never stop expanding. Philosophers have debated whether infinity is real or just an idea. Some say infinity exists only in the mind, while others believe it is part of reality. Religion also touches on infinity. Many beliefs describe gods or spiritual forces as infinite. They have no beginning and no end. They exist beyond time and space. Infinity can also be found in everyday experiences. Think about a reflection in a mirror. If you hold a small mirror in front of another, the reflection repeats endlessly. It creates a tunnel of images that seem to go on forever. This is a simple way to see infinity in action. Another example is the coastline of a country. If you measure it with a long ruler, you get one number, but if you use a smaller ruler, you find more details and the measurement gets longer. If you keep measuring with smaller and smaller rulers, the length keeps growing. This idea, called the coastline paradox, shows how infinity can appear in nature. Some people find infinity unsettling. The idea that something never stops can feel overwhelming, but others find it exciting. Infinity suggests there are no limits to what can be explored. It invites curiosity and wonder. It reminds people that there is always more to learn, more to see, and more to discover. Whether in numbers, space, time, or thought, infinity challenges people to think beyond what they know. It pushes the boundaries of understanding and opens the door to endless possibilities. Time moves forward, carrying everything with it. It does not stop, slow down, or reverse. Every moment that passes is gone, replaced by the next. People try to measure it with clocks, calendars, and schedules, but it remains an unstoppable force. The past holds memories, the present demands attention, and the future remains uncertain. No one can escape its influence. A person wakes up in the morning, gets dressed, and goes to work. Hours pass as tasks get completed. Evening arrives, and another day is over. This routine repeats, showing how time dictates life. A child grows into an adult, then into an elderly person, illustrating time's movement through physical change. The seasons shift from spring to summer, then fall and winter, marking the passage of months. Time continues whether noticed or ignored. People experience time differently. A long wait in a line feels slow, but an exciting event feels quick. The same clock counts each second equally, yet perception changes based on circumstances. A person enjoying a vacation might feel the week fly by, while someone in pain might feel each minute drag. This difference in experience does not change the reality of time's constant forward motion. Time plays a key role in memory. The past exists in thoughts, photos, and records, but cannot be changed. A student who studies for a test might remember the effort later, while someone who forgets an appointment cannot undo their mistake. Decisions made today affect tomorrow. A person who saves money over time builds financial security, while someone who spends recklessly might face difficulty later. The past creates the present, and the present shapes the future. Time also brings change. A city grows as buildings rise and roads expand. A river carves deeper into the earth over centuries, changing the landscape. A person who trains daily improves their skills over time. Change happens whether slow or fast, and time ensures it continues. Nothing stays the same forever. Some moments feel more important than others. Birthdays, anniversaries, and major achievements stand out. A graduation marks years of effort. A wedding celebrates a relationship. A farewell signals the end of a chapter. These moments create markers in life's timeline, separating ordinary days from significant events. The value of time becomes clear in these instances. Technology tries to control time. Alarm clocks wake people up. Timers track cooking. Calendars plan activities. Despite these tools, no one can pause or extend time. Scientists can measure it with precision, yet they cannot slow or stop its flow. Even with advancements, time remains a force beyond full control. People often wish they had more time. A worker with deadlines, a parent balancing responsibilities, a student preparing for exams, all feel its limits. The desire to stretch time leads to prioritization. Choosing one activity over another reflects the constraints of time. A person cannot do everything at once, so choices shape each day. Regret often comes from time poorly spent. Missing an opportunity, delaying an important task, or failing to appreciate a moment can lead to looking back with disappointment. At the same time, time allows for learning. A mistake made yesterday can lead to a better decision today. Growth happens through experience, and experience comes with time. The human body follows time's rules. Cells age, hair turns gray, and strength changes. No one stays young forever. Medicine and health practices can slow some effects, but aging continues. The passage of time affects all living things. Trees grow from seeds into towering structures. Animals age and pass through different stages of life. Everything follows time's natural order. Time appears in language. People say, "Time flies," when they feel days pass quickly. They say, "killing time," when waiting without purpose. They refer to a matter of time to express that something will eventually happen. These phrases show how deeply time influences thought and speech. Everyone recognizes its presence, even when not actively thinking about it. Dreams and ambitions depend on time. A musician spends years practicing before mastering their instrument. An athlete trains for hours daily to improve performance. A writer crafts stories over months or years. Progress takes time, and patience is required. Those who dedicate themselves to a goal understand that achievements do not happen instantly. Time remains a necessary ingredient in success. History records time's impact. Wars begin and end. Civilizations rise and fall. Inventions change how people live. Looking back at history shows patterns shaped by time. Lessons from the past guide future decisions. A country that once struggled can grow into a powerful nation. A past mistake can lead to a new approach. The record of time helps people understand where they came from and where they might go. Space and time connect. The universe expands, galaxies move, and stars change over billions of years. Time operates on a massive scale beyond human experience. While people count years and decades, the cosmos follows a timeline far longer. Scientists study time's role in physics, exploring theories of relativity and space-time. These studies reveal time's complexity, yet its basic function remains the same. It moves forward. People try to capture time. Photographs freeze a moment. Journals record thoughts for later reflection. Museums preserve artifacts from past eras. These efforts attempt to hold on to time, yet they only provide glimpses. The actual moments pass, leaving only representations behind. A childhood photo does not bring back youth. A recorded voice from the past does not return the speaker. Time itself continues. Entertainment reflects time's influence. Movies tell stories set in different eras. Books explore time travel, imagining what could happen if people moved through time differently. Games include countdowns and timers to create urgency. Every form of storytelling uses time as a structure. Events happen in sequence, and characters experience change as time moves forward. Even in fiction, time remains a key element. Sleep follows time's rhythm. Night comes, and the body signals rest. Morning arrives, and activity begins again. This cycle repeats daily. Time regulates sleep patterns, ensuring rest and renewal. Disrupting this cycle causes exhaustion. Ignoring time's influence on the body leads to consequences. Health connects to time in ways both seen and unseen. Nature follows time without resistance. The sun rises and sets, tides change with the moon's movement. Animals follow migration patterns based on seasons. Plants grow and wither as the months pass. Unlike humans, nature does not fight time. It moves with it, adapting as needed. Observing nature reveals time's quiet but steady work. The concept of time remains simple, yet impossible to master. It moves at the same rate for everyone, but feels different depending on circumstances. It governs daily life, shapes experiences, and dictates change. No one controls it, yet everyone lives by it. Time exists in every action, thought, and moment, always moving forward. Consciousness is the awareness and perception of existence. It is what allows people to experience the world, think about themselves, and interact with their surroundings. It is not a thing that can be touched or measured in a straightforward way, but it shapes every moment of life. When someone wakes up in the morning, they immediately become aware of their thoughts, surroundings, and emotions. This awareness is what defines consciousness. A person can recognize their own consciousness because they can reflect on their thoughts and experiences. When someone thinks about their past or makes plans for the future, they are using their awareness. This ability to think about thinking, known as metacognition, separates humans from many other living beings. A dog may react to hunger by searching for food, but a person can recognize hunger, understand why they feel it, and even decide to ignore it for a time. This level of awareness makes consciousness unique and complex. Every experience a person has, whether it is seeing colors, hearing music, or feeling pain, is tied to consciousness. Without it, there would be no way to process or interpret the world. Imagine a person watching a sunset. They see the colors blend from orange to deep purple, feel the cool air, and hear the rustling leaves. All of these sensations are part of consciousness. They do not simply happen. They are noticed, processed, and remembered. Consciousness also allows for emotions and self-reflection. When a person feels happy, they are not just reacting to an event. They recognize that they are happy and may even think about why they feel that way. If someone wins a game, they feel joy, not just because they succeeded, but because they understand what winning means to them. If a person loses something valuable, they do not just feel sad, they are aware of their sadness and may think about how to deal with it. The mind is always processing information, even when someone is not actively thinking about it. If a person walks down a busy street, they notice people, cars, and noises without focusing on each detail. Their brain filters out unnecessary information and prioritizes what matters. If a sudden loud noise happens, their consciousness shifts to focus on it. This ability to shift attention and prioritize information is an important part of being aware. Sleep shows how consciousness can change. During deep sleep, a person's awareness fades. They do not think about the world or react to their surroundings. However, during dreams, consciousness returns in a different way. In a dream, a person can experience sights, sounds, and emotions just like when they are awake, but these experiences are not based on reality. This shift in awareness during sleep highlights how consciousness is not a fixed state, but something that can change depending on the situation. Brain injuries can also affect consciousness. If a person experiences a concussion, they might become confused or even lose awareness for a period. More severe injuries can result in a coma, where consciousness is greatly reduced or absent. This shows that consciousness depends on the brain's function. If parts of the brain responsible for processing awareness are damaged, a person's ability to experience the world can change drastically. Different levels of consciousness exist. When fully awake and alert, a person is highly aware of their surroundings. When tired or distracted, awareness decreases. If someone daydreams, they are partially aware of their environment, but mostly focused on their thoughts. Meditation can also change awareness by shifting focus inward, reducing attention to the outside world. In extreme cases, people can experience altered states of consciousness due to drugs, illness, or deep meditation, where their perception of reality changes entirely. Some theories attempt to explain how consciousness works. One idea suggests that consciousness comes from the way the brain processes information. The brain takes in sensory input, interprets it, and creates awareness. Another idea is that consciousness is an emergent property, meaning it arises from the complexity of brain activity rather than any single part of the brain. Despite many theories, no one fully understands what causes consciousness or why it exists. Scientists study consciousness using brain scans and experiments. They examine how different parts of the brain activate when a person sees, hears, or thinks. Some researchers look at people in comas or under anesthesia to understand what happens when consciousness fades. These studies help build a better understanding, but many questions remain unanswered. Philosophers have debated consciousness for centuries. Some believe it is purely a product of the brain, while others argue that it is separate from the physical world. The famous thought experiment, known as the philosophical zombie, asks whether a being could act exactly like a human but lack consciousness. If such a being were possible, it would mean consciousness is not just behavior but something more. This question remains unresolved and continues to spark debate. Consciousness is also tied to the sense of self. A person knows they exist because they are aware of their own thoughts and experiences. This self-awareness allows them to recognize their identity over time. If someone remembers their childhood, they do not just recall events, they remember being the same person experiencing those events. This continuity of self is a key part of consciousness. Language and communication rely on consciousness. When a person speaks, they are not just making sounds, they are expressing thoughts. When listening, they understand meaning beyond just the words. A conversation requires awareness of both self and others. This ability to interpret meaning and respond appropriately makes human communication complex. Some animals show signs of consciousness. Studies suggest that dolphins, elephants, and certain primates recognize themselves in mirrors, a test often used to measure self-awareness. These animals also show problem-solving skills and emotions, suggesting they have some level of conscious experience. However, the depth and nature of their consciousness remain uncertain. Artificial intelligence raises questions about consciousness. AI can process information, recognize patterns, and respond to human input. However, AI does not have self-awareness or personal experiences. A chatbot can simulate conversation, but it does not feel or think in the way a person does. This raises the question of whether consciousness is tied only to biological brains or if it could one day exist in machines. The mystery of consciousness continues to challenge scientists, philosophers, and thinkers. While it is easy to recognize in daily life, its true nature remains uncertain. Understanding consciousness would not only explain human awareness, but could also redefine how people view themselves and their place in the world. Identity is the understanding of who you are, shaped by personal experiences, beliefs, and interactions with others. It is the core of how a person defines themselves and how they present themselves to the world. It forms through many influences, including family, culture, personal choices, and social expectations. Every individual builds their identity over time, sometimes without realizing it, as they navigate through life. From childhood, identity begins to take shape based on early experiences and relationships. A child absorbs the values of their parents or guardians, learning what is acceptable and what is not. If a child grows up in a household that prioritizes discipline and order, they might see themselves as someone who values structure and organization. If raised in an environment that encourages exploration and creativity, they may develop a sense of identity centered on innovation and curiosity. These early years play a strong role in forming the foundation of self-perception, though identity continues to evolve with new experiences. Social interactions add another layer. Friendships, school environments, and cultural surroundings introduce a child to different perspectives. A student who excels in academics may come to see themselves as intelligent and capable. Another who struggles in school but thrives in sports might identify more with physical ability. Identity in these early stages often reflects external validation. A person may see themselves as kind because others describe them that way, or believe they are funny because they make people laugh. As people grow older, identity becomes more complex. Adolescence is a stage where self-awareness deepens, and individuals begin questioning who they are. Peer influence becomes stronger, and many experiment with different aspects of their identity. A teenager may adopt different fashion styles, listen to new music, or change their opinions to fit in or stand out. This is a time of exploration, where individuals test different versions of themselves to see what feels right. It is common for teenagers to reject aspects of their upbringing in an attempt to assert independence. Someone raised with strict religious beliefs may question or even abandon them, while another might embrace them even more. Culture plays a significant role in shaping identity. The language a person speaks, the traditions they follow, and the values they hold are often deeply connected to cultural background. Someone raised in a collectivist society may view their identity in relation to their family and community, while another from an individualistic culture might prioritize personal goals and independence. A person moving to a new country may feel a shift in their identity, balancing their original culture with the new environment. This blending of cultural influences can create a sense of dual identity, where someone feels a connection to multiple traditions and ways of thinking. Personal choices and actions further define identity. A person who dedicates themselves to their career may strongly associate with their professional title. A doctor might see themselves as a healer, while a teacher may identify as an educator shaping future generations. Someone who prioritizes family life might see their role as a parent or partner as their primary identity. The decisions people make about their time, commitments, and relationships all contribute to their sense of self. Identity is not fixed. It shifts as people encounter new experiences, gain knowledge, and go through life changes. A person may define themselves as ambitious in their 20s, but value stability more in their 40s. Someone who once identified as rebellious may later adopt a more conventional lifestyle. Life events such as marriage, parenthood, loss, or career changes can all alter the way a person sees themselves. Identity adapts to new realities, sometimes reinforcing previous beliefs and sometimes challenging them. External labels also influence identity. Society places people into categories based on gender, race, profession, or other characteristics. These labels can shape how a person views themselves and how others perceive them. A woman working in a male-dominated field may strongly identify as someone who breaks barriers. A person from a marginalized group may feel a strong connection to their community because of shared experiences. Labels can be empowering or limiting, depending on how they align with personal identity. Self-reflection helps in understanding identity. People often ask themselves questions about who they are, what they believe in, and what matters to them. Some reflect through journaling, while others engage in deep conversations with trusted friends or mentors. Travel, reading, and exposure to new perspectives can also shape identity by challenging assumptions and expanding understanding. When people take the time to think about their values and priorities, they gain a clearer sense of self. At times, identity conflicts arise. A person may struggle between different aspects of themselves, feeling pressure to conform to expectations that do not align with their true self. Someone with a strong family background in a particular profession may feel torn between following tradition and pursuing a different passion. A person who once held firm beliefs may find themselves questioning them after new experiences. These internal conflicts can create discomfort, but they also lead to growth. Finding a balance between external expectations and personal truth is a key part of identity development. Identity also connects to self-esteem. When people feel confident in who they are, they navigate life with greater ease. They are more likely to make decisions that align with their values and feel secure in their choices. On the other hand, those who struggle with self-identity may feel lost, uncertain, or easily influenced by others. Building a strong sense of identity requires self-acceptance and the ability to embrace both strengths and weaknesses. Change in identity can be intentional. People may choose to redefine themselves, whether through career shifts, lifestyle changes, or personal growth. Someone may decide to live a more minimalist lifestyle after years of material excess. Another may shift political views after learning more about different perspectives. Reinventing identity does not mean discarding the past, but rather evolving based on new insights and priorities. Relationships also shape identity. The people someone surrounds themselves with influence their sense of self. A supportive friend group can reinforce confidence and authenticity, while toxic relationships may create self-doubt. Romantic relationships, in particular, often lead people to discover new aspects of themselves as they adapt and grow alongside a partner. Parenthood shifts identity as well, as individuals take on the responsibility of guiding another person's growth. Technology and social media add another dimension to identity. People now curate online versions of themselves, sometimes reflecting their real-life identity, and other times creating an idealized version. Social media allows individuals to express different aspects of their identity, but it can also create pressure to conform to trends or seek validation. The digital world offers opportunities for self-expression, but also challenges authenticity. Identity remains a work in progress. It develops through experiences, interactions, and personal reflections. It is shaped by culture, relationships, and personal choices. Though identity evolves, it remains a fundamental part of human existence, influencing decisions, actions, and perceptions. Understanding and accepting one's identity leads to a stronger sense of purpose and direction, allowing individuals to navigate life with clarity and confidence. Freedom is the ability to act, think, or speak without unnecessary restrictions. It means having control over one's choices and actions. People often connect freedom with independence, but it also involves responsibility. A person who is free must still make choices that do not harm others. Laws exist to balance individual freedom with the well-being of society. Imagine someone walking through a park. They can go left or right, sit on a bench, or keep moving. This is physical freedom. Now consider a person choosing what to say in a conversation. They can agree, disagree, or stay silent. This is freedom of expression. Both examples show the absence of force or coercion. Freedom is not the same for everyone. A child in school follows rules that limit their actions. They cannot leave the classroom whenever they want, but they are free to learn, speak, and express their thoughts within those rules. A prisoner has far fewer freedoms, as their movements and choices are tightly controlled. Even within a prison, a person still has the freedom to think, read, or reflect. These examples show that freedom exists on a scale, not as an absolute condition. Economic freedom affects how people live. Someone with money has more options for housing, education, and travel. A person without financial resources faces limits on these choices. They may not be legally restricted, but their situation creates barriers. Consider a person who wants to start a business. They have the legal right, but without capital, they struggle. Freedom in this sense depends on both external conditions and personal ability. Freedom of thought means a person can form their own opinions. No one can control what happens inside another person's mind. Even in situations where speech is limited, thoughts remain untouched. A person living under strict government control may not be able to say what they believe, but they can still think it. This distinction matters because free thought often leads to change. When people think differently from those in power, they may seek to alter laws or push for new rights. A person's freedom can be taken away by force. Governments, employers, or even family members can impose restrictions. Some countries allow people to speak openly against the government. Others punish those who criticize leaders. In some jobs, employees cannot say negative things about their company in public. A strict household may limit what children can do or say. In all cases, an external force shapes a person's ability to act freely. Technology changes how freedom works. The internet allows people to express themselves in ways that were not possible before. Someone in one country can share ideas with people on the other side of the world. However, governments and corporations monitor online activity. A person may feel free to post an opinion, but that post might be deleted. They might even face consequences for their words. This creates a new balance between freedom and control. Social freedom comes from how people interact. A person who feels pressured to behave a certain way in a group might not feel free. A teenager who wants to dress differently may hesitate due to fear of judgment. A worker may want to disagree with a boss but worry about losing their job. In these cases, freedom is limited by expectations rather than laws. Freedom in relationships involves choice. A person should be able to decide whom to befriend, date, or marry. In some cultures, arranged marriages still exist. A person may not have the freedom to choose a partner. In friendships, people sometimes stay in unhealthy relationships because they feel obligated. True freedom means being able to leave a situation without fear or force. Personal freedom connects to self-discipline. A person may have the right to do something, but choose not to. Someone with the freedom to eat anything might still follow a healthy diet. Another person may have the right to drink alcohol but decide against it. This kind of freedom is about making choices based on personal values, not external pressure. Freedom often involves trade-offs. A person who values security may accept fewer freedoms in exchange for safety. Airports have strict rules about luggage and identification. People accept these rules to reduce the risk of danger. Similarly, surveillance cameras in cities reduce privacy but increase security. These examples show how freedom interacts with other concerns. Cultural differences shape how people see freedom. In some societies, individual rights are emphasized. People are encouraged to express themselves, follow personal dreams, and make independent choices. In other places, collective well-being takes priority. Individuals may sacrifice personal freedom for the good of the community. Neither approach is necessarily better, but they lead to different experiences of freedom. The idea of freedom is often debated. Some people argue that too much freedom leads to chaos. Without rules, people might act selfishly or harm others. Others believe that any limit on freedom is a step toward oppression. In reality, societies must balance personal freedom with the needs of the group. Finding that balance is a continuous process. Education plays a role in freedom. A person with knowledge has more options. Someone who understands their rights can defend them. A person with skills can seek better opportunities. Without education, a person's choices become limited. They may be legally free, but still unable to improve their situation. This shows how freedom is connected to access and opportunity. Free speech is one of the most discussed forms of freedom. People have different opinions on what should be allowed. Some believe all speech should be protected, even if it offends others. Others think speech that causes harm should be limited. This debate happens in courts, schools, workplaces, and social media platforms. Every society decides where to draw the line between expression and harm. The concept of freedom is central to politics. Governments create laws that define what people can and cannot do. In democratic systems, people vote for leaders and policies. This gives them a role in shaping their own freedoms. In authoritarian systems, leaders control most aspects of life. People in such places often seek greater freedoms through protest or reform. Travel illustrates another aspect of freedom. A person with a passport from a powerful country can visit many places without restrictions. Someone from a country with strict travel rules may face visa requirements or outright bans. This creates unequal levels of freedom based on nationality. The ability to move freely is not guaranteed to everyone. Freedom in art and media allows creators to express ideas. Some societies censor books, films, or music that challenge authority. Others allow open discussion of all topics. Artists use their work to explore themes of oppression, resistance, and independence. A filmmaker may create a movie that criticizes government policies. A musician may write a song about personal struggle. These forms of expression reflect and influence society's view of freedom. Workplace freedom varies across industries. A freelance worker controls their schedule but lacks job security. An office employee has a stable job but must follow strict policies. Some companies allow flexible work, while others enforce rigid structures. The level of freedom a worker experiences depends on their profession and employer. Freedom remains an evolving idea. Laws change, social expectations shift, and technology alters possibilities. People continue to discuss, challenge, and redefine what it means to be free. Every individual experiences freedom differently, shaped by personal circumstances and the world around them. Truth is what exists, regardless of what people believe. It does not change based on opinion or perspective. It is simply what is. People search for truth in many ways, whether through science, philosophy, or personal experience. Some find it in facts and logic, while others seek it in emotions and intuition. But no matter how people approach it, truth remains independent of perception. A person might say the sky is green because that is what they see. But if the sky reflects light in a way that makes it blue to the vast majority of people, then that is the truth. The claim that the sky is green does not alter the reality of its color. This example shows the gap between perception and reality. The truth does not bend to individual belief. It stands apart from what people wish to be true. In science, truth comes from observation and repeated testing. A scientist does not decide what is true. They discover it by studying the world and finding patterns. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. This fact does not depend on who measures it. Anyone who follows the same method will reach the same conclusion. If someone claims water boils at 50 degrees Celsius under normal conditions, their statement is false, no matter how convinced they are. History provides another example. Events either happened or they did not. A battle either took place or it did not. A leader either signed a treaty or they did not. People may debate causes or interpretations, but the events themselves remain fixed. If two people tell different versions of the same event, at least one of them is wrong. Truth does not adjust itself to match a preferred narrative. Laws depend on truth as well. Courts rely on evidence to determine what happened in a case. If a person is accused of theft, the truth of whether they committed the crime exists regardless of what the defense or prosecution argues. The court's job is to uncover that truth using facts, testimonies, and logic. If a person stole a watch, their guilt exists whether or not they are caught. If they are innocent, their innocence is real, even if they are wrongly convicted. The truth exists separate from judgment. Truth in relationships follows the same principle. If a person is loyal to a friend, that loyalty is real, even if others doubt it. If a spouse is dishonest, the betrayal exists even if no one discovers it. Feelings might change the way people react to truth, but they do not change the truth itself. A broken promise remains broken, whether the person who made it regrets their actions or not. Language reflects truth, though it can also be used to distort it. A statement is either accurate or inaccurate. If someone says they saw a dog in the yard, either a dog was there or it was not. The words themselves do not change reality. However, language can be misleading. If a person says, "I was near the bank yesterday," they might mean a riverbank or a financial institution. The statement is unclear, but one meaning is still true and the other false. Clarity matters when discussing truth. Some people argue that truth is subjective. They say what is true for one person may not be true for another. While personal experiences differ, reality does not shift based on opinion. A person may feel cold in a room while another feels warm. These are individual experiences, not contradictions of truth. The temperature of the room is measurable. It does not change because two people feel differently about it. People often confuse truth with perspective. Truth is objective, perspective is personal. Ethical debates often complicate discussions about truth. Right and wrong can feel relative depending on culture and context. However, certain truths hold firm. If someone takes something that does not belong to them, they have stolen. If a person intentionally misleads another, they have lied. Justifying an action does not change the truth of what was done. People can argue about motives and consequences, but the act itself remains unchanged. The human mind sometimes resists truth. People prefer comfort over discomfort, and truth can be uncomfortable. If a person is diagnosed with an illness, the reality of the condition exists whether they accept it or not. Denial does not erase the truth. In the same way, people sometimes ignore facts that challenge their beliefs. They might reject scientific findings that conflict with their views. They might insist on falsehoods because accepting the truth would require change. But reality continues unaffected by preference. Truth also plays a role in decision-making. A business must understand market conditions before launching a product. If the demand for an item is low, that fact does not change because the business owner believes otherwise. Acting on false information leads to failure. A pilot needs accurate data about weather and fuel levels before taking off. The truth of those conditions determines whether the flight is safe. Ignoring reality can have consequences. Trust depends on truth. If a person tells a friend they will meet them at noon, but they show up at 3, the truth is that they were late. The excuse does not change the fact. If a company claims a product is safe but knows it has defects, they are lying. The truth remains even if the deception is never uncovered. People rely on truth to function in society. Without it, agreements, promises, and systems collapse. Technology does not change truth, though it can obscure it. A photograph can capture a real moment, but it can also be altered to deceive. Video can show what happened, but editing can distort the sequence of events. The presence of misinformation does not erase reality, it only makes it harder to find. People must work harder to separate fact from manipulation. Mathematics provides a clear example of truth. 2 + 2 = 4. This fact does not depend on culture, opinion, or feeling. If a person claims the answer is 5, they are wrong. Mathematical truths hold regardless of personal belief. They are discovered, not invented. Even in complex equations, there is a correct answer, even if it is difficult to find. Truth influences art as well. A story might be fiction, but it can still reveal real human emotions and experiences. A painting might not depict an actual event, but it can express true feelings. The difference is that fiction does not claim to be literal truth. It presents imagined reality while still conveying authentic emotions. A film that portrays a historical event inaccurately does not change what actually happened. The truth remains apart from the representation. Truth applies to memory, though memory itself is flawed. A person may remember an event differently than it happened. Their version feels true to them, but the actual event does not shift. This is why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. People recall details imperfectly, but the truth of what happened exists apart from their recollection. Truth has no agenda. It does not seek to persuade or comfort. It does not adjust to make people feel better. It remains steady, whether people embrace it or not. In daily life, people must decide whether to face the truth or ignore it. Facing truth often requires effort. It means looking at facts rather than desires. It means being willing to change beliefs when presented with new information. But the truth itself does not require belief to exist. It stands firm, unchanged by human wishes. Justice means treating people fairly and ensuring that actions have appropriate consequences. It is the foundation of law and order. When people commit crimes, they should face punishment that fits what they did. When people are wronged, they should receive fair compensation. Justice balances rights and responsibilities. It exists in courtrooms, workplaces, schools, and everyday life. Laws are meant to enforce justice. They define what is legal and illegal, but laws alone do not always create fairness. If laws favor one group over another, they fail to be just. A legal system must apply rules evenly to everyone. If a rich person receives a light sentence for a crime while a poor person faces harsh punishment for the same offense, the system is unjust. When people trust that laws are fair and applied equally, they are more likely to follow them. Justice also involves moral judgment. Some acts may be legal but still feel unfair. A company might fire an employee for speaking up about unsafe conditions. The company may not break any laws, but the decision could be considered unjust. People often argue over what is fair in different situations. They base their views on personal values, culture, and experience. Justice plays a role in resolving disputes. When two people disagree, they may turn to a mediator or a judge. The goal is to find a fair outcome. If one person borrows money and refuses to repay it, justice means holding them accountable. If someone is falsely accused of a crime, justice means proving their innocence. Without a system to resolve conflicts fairly, people take matters into their own hands, leading to chaos. The idea of justice appears in many parts of life. In sports, referees enforce rules to keep competition fair. If a player cheats and wins, the game feels rigged. If referees favor one team, the outcome lacks credibility. Justice ensures that rules apply to all players equally. Workplaces also rely on justice. Employees expect fair wages, safe conditions, and equal treatment. If two workers do the same job but receive different pay for no valid reason, the employer creates an unjust environment. Favoritism in promotions, discrimination, and ignoring worker rights all create injustice. Companies that treat employees fairly earn trust and loyalty. Justice affects education as well. Schools should provide equal opportunities for students. If one school has the best teachers and resources while another lacks basic supplies, the system is unfair. A student's future should not depend on their background or neighborhood. Fair policies give every student a chance to succeed. Criminal justice focuses on maintaining order and protecting people from harm. Police, courts, and prisons play a role in enforcing justice. If someone steals or hurts another person, they should face appropriate consequences. The justice system must also ensure that innocent people are not punished. Wrongful convictions destroy lives and undermine trust in the system. Justice includes the idea of rehabilitation. Punishment alone does not always fix problems. If a person commits a crime due to poverty or addiction, helping them change can prevent future crimes. A fair system considers why people break laws and looks for solutions beyond punishment. Justice also extends to history. Societies examine past injustices and try to correct them. If a government wronged a group of people, efforts may be made to acknowledge and repair the harm. This can involve financial compensation, public apologies, or policy changes. Justice does not always mean making things perfect, but it seeks to create fairness where possible. People demand justice when they feel wronged. If a person is cheated in a business deal, they expect repayment. If a worker is treated unfairly, they may file a complaint or take legal action. Social movements often focus on justice, pushing for laws and policies that treat people more fairly. The perception of justice can vary. One person may see a punishment as fair, while another sees it as too harsh or too lenient. Cultural values shape how people define fairness. In some places, harsh penalties are considered necessary to prevent crime. In others, rehabilitation is seen as the better approach. Justice requires balance. If punishments are too severe, they can be unjust. If consequences are too weak, people lose faith in the system. If laws protect only certain groups, others feel excluded. A fair system listens to different perspectives and adapts when necessary. When people trust that justice is served, they feel safer. They know that if someone wrongs them, there is a way to make things right. If a system is corrupt or biased, people lose confidence in it. They may stop reporting crimes, stop following rules, or take justice into their own hands. This leads to instability and conflict. Justice is not always simple. Some cases are clear, but others involve complex factors. A person who steals food because they are starving is different from a person who steals for profit. A judge must consider context, intent, and impact when making decisions. Fairness is key to justice. It ensures that no one is above the law and that people receive what they deserve based on their actions. Whether in courts, workplaces, or daily life, justice creates order and trust. Beauty is how people perceive things that look or feel pleasing. It is an idea that changes depending on culture, personal taste, and even time. A flower, a sunset, a painting, or a song can all be beautiful, but the reason they feel that way is not always clear. People often agree on some aspects of beauty, like symmetry in faces or harmony in music, but much of what is beautiful is personal. Someone might find an old, worn-out book beautiful, while another person sees it as just a used object. The idea of beauty influences many parts of life. In nature, certain patterns are widely appreciated. A tree's branches, a snowflake's shape, and the way waves move on the shore all have an order that people find beautiful. This is because the brain enjoys balance and patterns. A butterfly's wings, with their even design, are a good example of this. Many people instinctively like flowers, not just for their scent, but because their shapes and colors are naturally appealing. There is something about the way nature arranges things that makes them feel right. In art, beauty is more complicated. A painting of a landscape might be beautiful because it reminds someone of a peaceful place. A sculpture might be beautiful because of how the light hits its curves. Music follows the same pattern. A melody can feel beautiful because it flows smoothly, while another might be beautiful because it surprises the listener with an unexpected turn. But not all beauty in art is about pleasure. Some things are beautiful because they are unusual or because they express deep emotions. A sad song can be just as beautiful as a happy one. People also find beauty in other people. Faces with symmetry, clear skin, and certain proportions are often considered attractive. But what people find beautiful in others changes with time and culture. Centuries ago, heavier body types were seen as a sign of wealth and health, while today, different shapes are favored. Clothing, makeup, and hairstyles also play a role. What is fashionable one year may seem strange the next. Yet some things remain the same. A confident smile, bright eyes, and expressive gestures are often seen as beautiful no matter the time or place. Beyond appearances, beauty can also be about actions or ideas. Kindness is often described as beautiful. A person who helps others without expecting anything in return can be seen as beautiful in spirit. A well-written book, a moving speech, or a simple but heartfelt conversation can be beautiful because of the emotions they stir. A moment between two people, like a shared glance that says everything without words, can have beauty in it. The idea of beauty is also shaped by culture. What one society finds beautiful, another might ignore. In some places, pale skin is considered more attractive, while in others, a tan is preferred. Some cultures value intricate decorations on clothing, while others prefer simplicity. Art styles vary widely. One person might see a detailed classical painting as beautiful, while another admires modern abstract art. These differences show that beauty is not fixed. It moves with people, history, and changing values. Technology has changed how people see beauty. Filters on social media alter appearances, making faces smoother, eyes bigger, and skin flawless. This creates a new standard that is often impossible in real life. People compare themselves to these edited images and may feel less beautiful as a result. This has led to discussions about what is real beauty. Some argue that imperfections are what make people unique, and therefore beautiful. Others believe that beauty is whatever makes a person feel confident. Beauty is also found in movement. The way a dancer moves across a stage, the way an athlete leaps in perfect form, or the way a bird glides through the air can all feel beautiful. These things capture attention because they show control, grace, and a connection to the environment. A person walking with purpose, someone laughing freely, or even the way light moves across a surface can be beautiful in a quiet way. Sometimes beauty comes from contrast. A bright flower in a gray landscape stands out more. A moment of silence after loud noise feels more powerful. A small act of kindness in a harsh world seems more meaningful. These contrasts make beauty more noticeable. They highlight the difference between what is ordinary and what stands out. Even things that are broken can be beautiful. A cracked piece of pottery can have a pattern that looks interesting. A faded photograph might carry a sense of nostalgia that makes it more precious. Some cultures celebrate imperfection. In Japan, the practice of kintsugi involves repairing broken pottery with gold, highlighting the cracks rather than hiding them. This idea suggests that flaws add to beauty rather than take away from it. Beauty can also be a feeling. A perfect moment, when everything seems right, can be beautiful. Standing on a mountain and looking out at the world, hearing a familiar song at the right time, or watching the way sunlight filters through trees can all create a sense of beauty. These moments do not last, but that might be part of what makes them beautiful. People also create beauty in their surroundings. The way a home is decorated, the way a table is set for a meal, or the way a garden is arranged all reflect ideas of beauty. Some prefer clean, simple spaces, while others enjoy a mix of colors and textures. Cities can have beauty in their architecture, parks, and even the way lights reflect off wet streets. Beauty is not just in grand places. It is in the small details of daily life. Even sounds can be beautiful. The rhythm of footsteps on a quiet street, the hum of voices in a cafe, or the rustle of leaves in the wind all have a kind of beauty. Some people find beauty in the way a sentence is spoken, the warmth in someone's voice, or the way laughter fills a room. Beauty is never just one thing. It changes depending on where a person is, what they have experienced, and how they feel in a moment. What is beautiful to one person may not be to another, but that does not make it any less real. Beauty is not only about looking at something, it is also about how it makes a person feel. Whether in nature, art, people, or simple moments, beauty is always present, waiting to be noticed. Chaos is a state where order disappears, and things happen in ways that seem random. In nature, in human behavior, and in complex systems, chaos shows up when patterns break down. It does not mean complete anarchy, but rather a system so unpredictable that it becomes impossible to control or predict outcomes. When things become chaotic, they follow no clear path, and small events can lead to massive changes. Imagine walking through a crowded street where people move in different directions. Some stop to talk, others change direction, and a few suddenly rush forward. At first glance, the movement seems random, but everyone has their reasons for walking the way they do. A spilled coffee, a sudden change in weather, or a car honking nearby can influence where people go. The result is a pattern too complex to predict. This is a small example of chaos. In weather systems, chaos appears often. The movement of air and water creates storms, heat waves, and cold fronts. A tiny shift in wind patterns can lead to a hurricane or a clear day. This idea is known as the butterfly effect, where a small change in one part of a system can create a massive impact elsewhere. Meteorologists can predict short-term weather, but long-term forecasts become unreliable because the system is too chaotic. No matter how much data scientists collect, a small unknown factor can change everything. In human behavior, chaos is part of decision-making and emotions. People do not always act in rational ways. They change their minds based on mood, experience, and outside influences. A person planning to buy a red car might switch to blue after seeing a friend drive one. A planned vacation might change due to a sudden work emergency. Life itself is full of unexpected turns, making long-term planning difficult. Even well-organized routines can be thrown into disorder by an unexpected phone call or a sudden change in plans. In business and economics, chaos plays a role in market trends and financial stability. Stock markets seem to follow patterns, but those patterns break easily. A small news event can cause a stock to rise or fall. Investors try to predict movements, but no model is perfect. Unexpected changes, such as political events or new technology, can disrupt even the most stable industries. The 2008 financial crisis was an example of chaos in action. Small risks taken by banks grew into a massive collapse that affected economies worldwide. Each decision seemed small, but together they created a crisis. In physics and mathematics, chaos theory describes systems that are highly sensitive to initial conditions. A simple pendulum swings back and forth, but if two pendulums start from slightly different positions, their paths will quickly diverge. This shows how tiny differences can lead to completely different outcomes. The same principle applies to planets, fluids, and even population growth. Scientists can understand general trends, but struggle to predict specific details because minor changes grow into large effects. In technology, chaos appears in networks and software systems. A single line of faulty code can crash an entire system. Internet traffic follows complex patterns, making it hard to predict outages. Cybersecurity depends on anticipating threats, but new attacks emerge in unpredictable ways. The spread of a computer virus mirrors the spread of a biological virus, where small infections lead to widespread damage. Engineers try to build stable systems, but they must always prepare for unexpected failures. In war and conflict, chaos determines the outcome of battles and political shifts. A general may plan for every possible move, but real combat is full of surprises. A sudden weather change, a hidden weakness, or an unexpected enemy decision can turn victory into defeat. Historical battles often hinged on small, unpredictable factors. In modern warfare, the same principles apply. No matter how much intelligence agencies track threats, unpredictable events shape outcomes. In psychology, chaos affects mental states and relationships. Thoughts do not always follow a straight path. A person might wake up feeling happy but become stressed by a minor event. Relationships follow unpredictable patterns, where a single conversation can change everything. In therapy, patients explore their thoughts and behaviors, trying to find patterns in the chaos of their emotions. The human brain processes vast amounts of information, but minor influences can shift perceptions and decisions. In creativity and art, chaos plays a vital role. Writers, painters, and musicians often embrace unpredictability. A poet may start with one idea, but end with something completely different. A painter might allow random brushstrokes to shape the final piece. Improvised music relies on chaos, where each note influences the next in an unplanned way. Some of the most famous discoveries in science and philosophy happened by accident when someone embraced the unexpected. In everyday life, chaos is present in small ways. A traffic jam can form due to one car stopping suddenly. A conversation can take an unexpected turn due to an offhand comment. Cooking can go wrong because of a forgotten ingredient. These moments remind people that not everything can be controlled. Some embrace chaos, finding excitement in the unexpected. Others fear it, trying to impose strict order on their lives. But no matter how much structure someone builds, chaos always finds a way in. In medicine, chaos appears in the spread of diseases. Epidemiologists study how viruses move through populations, but small interactions between people can change everything. A single handshake, a sneeze in a crowded room, or a trip across borders can turn a small outbreak into a global pandemic. Hospitals prepare for emergencies, but unexpected surges in patients can overwhelm systems. Even within the human body, chaos exists in the way cells grow, repair, and respond to external conditions. In nature, chaos appears in ecosystems and animal behavior. A tiny change in temperature can shift migration patterns. An invasive species can disrupt a food chain. A single drought can alter the landscape for years. Animals adapt to their environment, but their movements and behaviors are never entirely predictable. A flock of birds flying together seems to move in unison, but each bird makes independent choices, creating a complex and chaotic pattern. Scientists study these systems to find order within the chaos, but perfect predictions remain impossible. In sports, chaos affects performance and strategy. A team may follow a strict game plan, but unexpected events can change everything. A single mistake, an injury, or an unexpected play can shift momentum. Fans and analysts try to predict outcomes, but upsets happen regularly. Even the best athletes face moments of unpredictability, where their reactions determine success or failure. Sports highlight how chaos shapes competition, creating drama and excitement. In philosophy, chaos questions the idea of control and fate. Some argue that everything follows a set path, even if it looks chaotic. Others believe true randomness exists, where events have no predetermined order. Free will and determinism intersect in discussions about chaos. If small choices lead to massive consequences, how much control does anyone truly have? Philosophers debate whether chaos is a fundamental part of reality or simply a reflection of limited human understanding. In personal growth, chaos can be a source of strength. People face setbacks, but they also discover new opportunities in unpredictable ways. A lost job might lead to a new career. A failed relationship might open the door to deeper self-awareness. Those who learn to navigate chaos often develop resilience. While some resist change, others adapt, finding ways to turn disorder into personal growth. Chaos is part of every journey, shaping lives in ways that no one can fully anticipate. Order is the way things are arranged in a structured manner. It gives meaning to chaos and helps people understand the world around them. Without order, life would be unpredictable and difficult to manage. It appears in nature, in human society, and in personal routines. When people wake up in the morning and follow a routine, they create order. They brush their teeth, have breakfast, and go to work. This sequence keeps things running smoothly. If they didn't follow a routine, they might forget important tasks or feel disorganized throughout the day. Order is also seen in how cities are built. Roads follow patterns, buildings have designated spaces, and traffic signals ensure movement happens without crashes. Without these systems, there would be confusion and danger. Imagine a city where roads were randomly placed, where traffic lights didn't exist, and where buildings were scattered with no logic. People would struggle to find their way. Emergency services would have trouble reaching those in need. Businesses would have difficulty operating efficiently. The structured design of a city allows for a balance between movement and stability. In nature, order exists in patterns that repeat. The way flowers bloom, the way seasons change, and the way planets orbit the sun all show structured patterns. A tree grows branches in a way that maximizes its exposure to sunlight. Birds migrate in predictable ways each year. Bees build their hives with precise hexagonal shapes that fit together perfectly. These patterns help living things survive and adapt to their environment. Without these natural structures, ecosystems would struggle to maintain balance. People also use order in their thinking. When solving a problem, they break it down into steps. A mathematician follows formulas. A writer structures a story with a beginning, middle, and end, and a chef follows a recipe. Each of these actions follows a logical sequence. Without it, people would struggle to achieve their goals. If a chef ignored the order of steps in a recipe, the dish might not turn out as expected. If a writer jumbled the order of events in a story, readers might find it confusing. Laws and rules create order in society. Governments set regulations to make sure people can live together peacefully. Laws prevent theft, violence, and other actions that could cause harm. When rules are followed, society functions more smoothly. Schools have schedules to ensure students learn in an organized way. Workplaces have systems to keep productivity on track. In sports, rules make sure games are fair. Without them, chaos would take over, and competition would lose meaning. Order is also important in communication. Language follows rules so people can understand each other. Sentences have structure, words follow grammar rules, and punctuation helps clarify meaning. If these elements were missing, messages would be unclear. Imagine trying to read a book where the words were randomly arranged. The meaning would be lost. Order in language allows for clear expression of ideas. In technology, order plays a major role. Computers operate using structured codes and logical sequences. Software follows algorithms to process information correctly. If the order of commands in a program is wrong, the software will not work as intended. Factories also rely on order to function. Assembly lines follow a sequence to produce goods efficiently. If parts were put together in the wrong order, products would be defective. This structured approach ensures that technology and manufacturing meet quality standards. Order is present in personal habits and discipline. A person who organizes their time effectively can accomplish more. They set priorities, follow schedules, and keep their tasks in check. Without a sense of order, procrastination and confusion can take over. A student who follows a study plan will retain information better than one who studies at random. A business person who maintains an organized workspace will find their work easier to manage. Simple actions like keeping a clean room, maintaining a budget, or following a fitness routine all stem from order. Even in art, which often values creativity and spontaneity, order plays a role. Music follows rhythm and harmony to create pleasant sounds. Without structure, it would be noise. Paintings use balance and composition to create visually appealing images. Without order, a painting could feel chaotic or overwhelming. Dance follows patterns of movement, and architecture follows design principles to ensure stability. Creativity thrives when it has a framework to build upon. Order is not always rigid. It can adapt and change as needed. Sometimes, breaking order leads to new discoveries. Scientists test new ideas by changing the structure of existing knowledge. Innovators challenge traditional methods to create something better. But even when order is adjusted, it is usually done with intention. A scientist follows the scientific method to ensure experiments are reliable. An artist may break traditional forms, but they do so with purpose. A musician might experiment with sound, but they still follow a structure to make it listenable. There are moments when order feels restrictive. Rules can sometimes be too rigid, routines can feel repetitive, and structured environments can feel limiting. But the balance between order and freedom is what allows growth. A person who follows a strict routine can still allow space for spontaneity. A company that follows structured policies can still encourage creative problem-solving. A society that values laws can still allow for flexibility and change. Order provides a foundation for stability. It helps people navigate life with predictability. When people know what to expect, they feel more in control. A sense of order reduces stress and creates a sense of security. A person who knows they will receive their paycheck on time can plan their expenses. A driver who understands traffic rules can feel confident on the road. A traveler who follows a map can reach their destination without getting lost. Predictability allows for better decision-making. Order is not always visible. Sometimes it works in the background, unnoticed. The way the human body functions is a perfect example. The heart beats in a rhythm. The lungs follow a pattern of breathing, and the digestive system processes food in a structured way. If any of these processes became disordered, health problems could arise. Even emotions follow patterns. People experience highs and lows, but there is often a rhythm to how they process feelings. Understanding these natural cycles helps people manage life more effectively. The balance between order and disorder is what creates progress. Too much order can lead to stagnation, while too much chaos can cause instability. Innovation happens when structured knowledge is used in new ways. Society functions best when laws are clear but adaptable. Individuals thrive when they have routines, but also room for flexibility. Finding this balance allows for growth while maintaining stability. From daily habits to the vast systems that govern the world, order plays an essential role in shaping life. It brings structure to the unpredictable, clarity to the complex, and purpose to actions. Whether seen in nature, society, thought processes, or creativity, order serves as a guiding principle that allows things to function in harmony. Love is a deep and powerful emotion that connects people in many ways. It shapes relationships, influences decisions, and gives meaning to life. People experience love in different forms: romantic love, familial love, friendship, and even the love for ideas or passions. It is not a simple feeling, but a complex mix of emotions, actions, and commitments. It is present in every culture, every time period, and every stage of life. A child experiences love from a parent long before they understand what it is. A mother holds her newborn, responds to their cries, and soothes them through touch and voice. The baby does not understand words but knows warmth, safety, and care. This love is not based on expectations or conditions. It is given freely and naturally. As the child grows, love takes different forms. It shows up in encouragement, protection, and guidance. A father teaching his child to ride a bike, or a mother staying up late to help with homework, are examples of love in action. Friendship is another form of love that develops over time. It does not start as strongly as family love, but builds through shared experiences, trust, and understanding. Two people meet and feel a connection. They talk, laugh, and support each other. Over time, they develop a deep bond. A friend who listens after a hard day or helps move to a new home is showing love through actions. Unlike family love, friendship is chosen. It is built on mutual respect and shared values. Romantic love brings a different kind of intensity. It starts with attraction and grows into something deeper. It can be exciting and overwhelming. People in love feel a strong connection, think about each other constantly, and want to spend time together. As the relationship matures, love shifts from excitement to commitment. A couple that has been together for years may not feel the rush of early romance, but they share a deep understanding. They support each other through challenges and celebrate successes together. Love in this form is more than a feeling. It is a choice and an action. Love is not always easy. It requires effort and patience. People make mistakes, disappoint each other, and face difficulties. A person may feel love but struggle to express it. Another may want to love but fear getting hurt. Love involves trust, and trust can be broken. When this happens, love does not always disappear, but it can change. A couple may work through problems and come out stronger, or they may grow apart. Friends may drift away but still care for each other. Family members may argue but find ways to reconnect. Love is also found outside of personal relationships. People love music, art, nature, or their work. A musician spends hours perfecting a song because they love the process. A scientist works late in a lab driven by curiosity and passion. An artist paints, not for money or fame, but because creating brings joy. This type of love is different from personal relationships, but it still involves deep commitment and emotional connection. Love is often tested by time and distance. A soldier deployed overseas still loves their family even though they are far away. A childhood friend who moves to another country still holds a place in the heart. A couple in a long-distance relationship misses each other but stays connected through calls and messages. Love does not always require physical presence. It can exist in memory, in thought, and in effort. Loss is another test of love. When a loved one passes away, the love does not end. A person grieving a parent, spouse, or friend still feels their presence in memories, traditions, and small daily moments. A song on the radio, a familiar smell, or an old photograph can bring back the feeling of love even years later. Love is also tied to forgiveness. People hurt each other, sometimes intentionally, sometimes by accident. A harsh word, a forgotten promise, or a moment of selfishness can damage relationships. Love allows people to move past mistakes. A child forgives a parent for a bad decision. A spouse forgives a partner for a thoughtless comment. A friend forgives a broken promise. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or ignoring pain, but it allows love to continue. Love can also be difficult when it is not returned. Unrequited love is painful. A person may deeply care for someone who does not feel the same way. A friendship may fade because one person values it more than the other. A romantic interest may not develop into a relationship. These experiences hurt, but they are part of love. Even when love is not reciprocated, it is still real. Love is often portrayed as grand gestures and dramatic moments, but it is also found in small, everyday acts. A father making breakfast for his children, a partner remembering a favorite book, a friend checking in after a long day. These moments may seem simple, but they are powerful. Love does not always need words. A hug, a shared smile, or a thoughtful gesture can communicate love just as clearly as saying, "I love you." Even self-love is important. People are often their own harshest critics. They judge their failures more than their successes. They compare themselves to others and feel they are not enough. But love also means kindness toward oneself. Taking care of mental and physical health, setting boundaries, and allowing time to rest are acts of love. A person who loves themselves is more able to love others. Love is present in every culture, every time period, and every stage of life. It is the force that brings people together, helps them endure hardships, and gives meaning to life. It can be quiet or loud, steady or unpredictable, simple or complex. But at its core, love is always about connection. Whether through family, friendship, romance, passion, or even self-acceptance, love is the thread that ties human experiences together. Hate is a deep feeling of strong dislike or hostility. It can be directed at a person, a group, an idea, or even an object. It often comes from fear, anger, or a sense of being wronged. Hate can build over time or appear suddenly in response to a situation. It can be based on personal experiences or shaped by outside influences like culture, upbringing, or social environment. Hate often leads to conflict, whether between individuals or entire communities. It has played a role in personal disputes, family breakdowns, and even large-scale violence throughout history. Imagine a person who was bullied in school. Over time, they may develop hatred for their bully. Every memory of being humiliated or hurt reinforces that feeling. Even if years pass and the bully changes, the person may still hold on to that hate. It might make them avoid situations that remind them of school. It might cause them to assume the worst in people who resemble their old bully. In extreme cases, they might lash out, either in words or actions, when they feel threatened. Hate, once rooted, can influence how a person sees the world. Hate can also come from larger social and cultural influences. Consider someone raised in a household where they were constantly told that a certain group of people is untrustworthy. Maybe their parents or friends repeated the same ideas over and over. Over time, that person absorbs the belief without ever questioning it. They start to avoid those people or treat them unfairly. If they see one bad example, it confirms everything they were taught. They don't stop to consider that one bad example does not represent an entire group. Their hate is not based on personal experience, but on a belief system handed down to them. Fear often feeds hate. If someone believes another person or group threatens their safety, values, or way of life, hate can grow. When people don't understand something, they might fear it. That fear can turn into anger, and anger into hate. Take the case of someone who moves to a new country and feels out of place. They hear an unfamiliar language, see customs they don't recognize, and struggle to fit in. Instead of seeing it as an opportunity to learn, they might feel threatened. If they hear others complain about the same things, that fear hardens into hostility. They begin to resent the people they see as different. They might start blaming them for personal struggles. Hate can also be a response to pain. Someone who has been hurt deeply may develop hate as a form of self-protection. A person who is betrayed by a close friend may develop a general hatred toward friendships. They assume that trusting others will only lead to more pain. They push people away, seeing every new relationship as a potential threat. Their hate isolates them, but they believe it protects them from being hurt again. Hate is not always loud and obvious. It can be quiet and simmer beneath the surface. A person might not act aggressively, but their thoughts are filled with resentment. They might avoid certain people, refuse to engage in discussions, or celebrate when something bad happens to those they dislike. It might come out in small ways, like refusing to help someone or speaking negatively behind their back. Over time, even unspoken hate can affect relationships and decisions. Sometimes, hate becomes all-consuming. A person who has been wronged might spend years thinking about revenge. They replay past events, fueling their anger. They might go out of their way to make life difficult for the person they hate. Their actions become centered around that feeling, and it starts to take over their thoughts. Even when they have a chance to move on, they refuse. Their hate becomes a defining part of who they are. Hate can also be used as a tool. Leaders, media, and social groups have long used hate to rally people. If a leader convinces people that an enemy is responsible for their problems, that hate can unite them. It gives them a common cause. Propaganda often plays on existing fears and frustrations. It simplifies complex issues into an us versus them mindset. When people believe they are in the right, they justify extreme actions. History is filled with examples where hate led to discrimination, violence, and even war. Hate does not always feel bad to the person experiencing it. In some cases, it gives a sense of purpose. A person who believes they are fighting against something they see as wrong might feel justified. They may see themselves as protectors or defenders. Hate can create a sense of unity within a group. If everyone shares the same enemy, it strengthens their bond. This can be seen in rivalries between sports teams, political parties, or even entire nations. The more people feel like they are on the right side, the more they justify their hate. Hate can distort perception. When someone hates, they often ignore facts that don't support their feelings. If a person hates a particular group, they focus only on the negative stories about them. Even if presented with evidence to the contrary, they dismiss it. Their emotions override logic. They may twist events to fit their beliefs. They assume bad intentions where none exist. Even if the person or group changes, the hatred remains because it is no longer about reality. It has become personal. Hate can spread easily. When one person openly expresses hate, others who feel the same way may feel encouraged. A single hateful statement online can spark an entire thread of negativity. People who might have stayed silent feel emboldened. The more hate is normalized, the more people engage in it. Social media has amplified this effect. An angry post can reach thousands in seconds. Hate spreads faster than kindness because anger provokes strong reactions. People engage more when they feel outraged. Hate is often irrational, but that does not make it any less powerful. A person who hates someone may not be able to explain exactly why. They just know they feel strongly. If asked to justify it, they might bring up small incidents or vague ideas. Their emotions drive them more than reason. They might insist they are acting logically, but in reality, they are reacting emotionally. Hate can be difficult to let go of. A person who has held on to resentment for years might not know who they are without it. If they have built their identity around opposition to something, losing that hate can feel like losing a part of themselves. Even if the situation that caused the hate changes, they may struggle to move on. They may even find new reasons to justify their feelings. The mind resists change, especially when emotions are deeply ingrained. Hate shapes the way people interact with the world. It influences choices, relationships, and even personal well-being. It can lead to isolation, conflict, and suffering. It can consume energy and attention that could be used elsewhere. While hate is a natural human emotion, it has consequences that reach far beyond the individual. Happiness is a state of joy and contentment. It comes from different things for different people. Some find it in simple moments, like drinking coffee on a quiet morning. Others feel it when they achieve a goal or spend time with loved ones. Happiness isn't always about excitement or pleasure. Sometimes it's just the peace that comes from knowing things are okay. People often think of happiness as something to chase. They set big goals, thinking they will be happy when they reach them. Someone might say, "I'll be happy when I get that job," or "I'll be happy when I have more money." But happiness doesn't always work that way. A person may get the job or the money and still feel like something is missing. That's because happiness isn't a destination. It's more like a way of being. Some people find happiness in relationships. Friends, family, and romantic partners can bring joy. A simple conversation with a friend can lighten a person's mood. Laughing over an old joke or sharing a meal can create a sense of warmth. Even small moments of connection, like making eye contact and smiling at a stranger, can spark happiness. Others find happiness in work. This doesn't mean they always love their job, but when they feel a sense of purpose, it makes the work meaningful. A teacher might feel happy when they see a student finally understand a concept. A doctor might feel happy when a patient recovers. Even in jobs that seem repetitive, people can find happiness in doing something well. Creativity also brings happiness. Artists, writers, and musicians often say they lose track of time when they create. This feeling is called flow. It happens when a person is fully absorbed in what they're doing. It doesn't have to be art. Someone might feel this way while cooking, building something, or even gardening. The process itself brings joy, not just the finished product. Happiness can also come from movement. Exercise releases chemicals in the brain that make people feel good. It doesn't have to be intense. A short walk, stretching, or dancing can lift a person's mood. Movement helps because the body and mind are connected. When the body feels good, the mind often follows. Nature has a way of bringing happiness too. Fresh air, sunlight, and greenery can improve mood. Some people feel happy when they watch the ocean or sit under a tree. Even something as small as opening a window to let in natural light can help. Being outside reminds people that life is bigger than their problems. Gratitude plays a role in happiness. People who focus on what they have instead of what they lack tend to feel better. This doesn't mean ignoring problems, it just means noticing the good. A person might feel grateful for their health, their home, or a good meal. Even on hard days, small things like a kind word or a beautiful sunset can bring moments of happiness. Routine can also create happiness. People often think they need big changes to feel happy, but small daily habits make a difference. Drinking tea in the morning, listening to music while driving, or reading before bed can create a sense of stability. These moments give life rhythm. Happiness doesn't mean feeling good all the time. No one is happy every moment of every day. Sadness, frustration, and boredom are part of life too. But happiness is often about how a person responds to those emotions. Someone who knows that sadness passes will not get stuck in it. Someone who understands that problems can be solved will feel less overwhelmed. Helping others can also increase happiness. Giving time, energy, or kindness to others makes people feel good. It might be as simple as holding the door open for someone or listening when a friend needs to talk. Some people volunteer, while others find small ways to help in daily life. When people feel useful, they often feel happier. Happiness is not about having everything. Some of the happiest people live simple lives. They focus on what matters to them instead of comparing themselves to others. They know what brings them joy and make time for it. They also know that happiness isn't something to wait for. It's something to create in the present moment. Sadness is a deep emotional feeling of sorrow. It comes from loss, disappointment, or unmet expectations. It affects how people think, act, and interact with the world. Some people feel it for a short time, while others struggle with it for long periods. It can be tied to a single event or a collection of experiences that build up over time. A person might feel sad when they lose a loved one. The weight of grief can make everyday tasks feel overwhelming. They may wake up in the morning and struggle to get out of bed, not because they are physically tired, but because their mind is heavy. Memories surface when they least expect it. Seeing an old photo, hearing a familiar song, or even smelling something that reminds them of the past. These moments bring waves of emotion that feel impossible to escape. Sadness is not limited to loss. It can come from failure. A student who works hard for months but fails an exam may feel sadness creeping in. They may replay every mistake they made, thinking of how they could have done better. They might compare themselves to classmates who passed, feeling as though they are not good enough. Over time, this sadness can grow into self-doubt, making it harder for them to try again. Relationships also bring sadness. A person who loves someone deeply may feel sadness when the other person does not feel the same way. Rejection can leave an empty space that is difficult to fill. They might wonder what they did wrong, analyzing conversations and interactions, trying to find a reason for the outcome. Some people carry this sadness for years, unable to let go of what they once hoped would happen. Disappointment often brings sadness, especially when expectations are not met. A person might spend years building a career, believing that hard work will bring success. When things do not go as planned, perhaps they are passed over for a promotion or their business fails, they feel sadness sinking in. The effort, the time, and the sacrifices they made seem meaningless in that moment. This kind of sadness can lead to frustration, making them question whether they should keep trying or give up. Even small moments can bring sadness. A child might feel it when their best friend moves away. A teenager might experience it when they are left out of a group. An adult might feel it when they realize they have grown apart from someone they once considered a close friend. These moments might seem minor compared to larger life events, but they carry weight. They shape how people see the world and how they form relationships moving forward. Sadness affects the body as well as the mind. A person who is sad may feel physically drained, as though their energy has been taken away. They might lose their appetite or eat more than usual. Sleep can become difficult, with their mind replaying events over and over. Some people withdraw from others, preferring to be alone with their thoughts. Others seek out company, hoping that being around friends or family will help ease the pain. Some try to hide their sadness, putting on a smile so others do not worry. They might say they are fine when they are not. They might keep themselves busy, filling their time with work, hobbies, or social events so they do not have to face their emotions. But even with distractions, sadness lingers. It shows up in quiet moments, in the spaces between activities, in the silence before sleep. For some, sadness turns into something deeper. It becomes a constant presence rather than a passing feeling. It makes them see the world in shades of gray, where once there was color. They lose interest in things that once made them happy. They stop making plans, believing that nothing will change. They may feel isolated, even when surrounded by others. Children experience sadness differently than adults. A child may not have the words to explain what they feel. Instead, they might become quiet or act out. They might lose interest in play or become more clingy. Parents and caregivers sometimes dismiss a child's sadness, thinking they will get over it quickly. But children need support just as much as adults do. They need someone to listen, to help them understand their feelings, and to let them know that sadness is a normal part of life. Culture plays a role in how people express sadness. In some cultures, open displays of emotion are accepted. People cry, speak about their feelings, and seek comfort from others. In other cultures, sadness is seen as something to be kept private. People are expected to remain strong, to push through their emotions without showing them. This can make sadness feel even heavier, as those who experience it may feel they have no outlet for their pain. Music, art, and literature often capture sadness in ways that words alone cannot. A song can express emotions that feel too difficult to say out loud. A painting can reflect the inner turmoil of a person who does not know how to explain what they feel. Books and poems give voice to sadness, showing that it is a shared experience, not something one person must carry alone. Some find comfort in routines. Simple actions like making a cup of tea, taking a walk, or listening to familiar music can provide a sense of stability. Others turn to writing, using a journal to put their thoughts into words. Talking to someone can also help, whether it is a friend, a family member, or a therapist. Saying the words out loud can make sadness feel less overwhelming. Time changes sadness. What feels unbearable in one moment may become manageable later. Memories that once brought pain may become reminders of love, growth, or lessons learned. Sadness does not disappear, but it shifts. It becomes part of a person's story, woven into their experiences. Even in sadness, there are moments of relief. A person may laugh unexpectedly, even when they thought they would never smile again. They may find comfort in small things, a kind word from a stranger, the warmth of the sun, the sound of rain. These moments do not erase sadness, but they remind people that it is not the only emotion they will feel. No one experiences sadness in the same way. Some move through it quickly, while others carry it for years. Some face it head-on, while others push it aside. But sadness is part of being human. It is a sign that something mattered, that something was loved, that something was hoped for. It is not weakness. It is not something to be ashamed of. It is simply part of life. Wisdom is knowledge combined with experience and judgment. It is not something people are born with. It develops over time through learning, reflection, and practice. A person may have a great deal of knowledge but lack wisdom. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is knowing how to use that information in the right way at the right time. A doctor fresh out of medical school has knowledge. They understand diseases, treatments, and the human body. But wisdom comes with years of diagnosing patients, seeing how illnesses progress, and learning that symptoms do not always present in textbook ways. An experienced doctor knows that not every cough is just a cold. They know when to dig deeper, when to trust a patient's instinct, and when to question their own initial assumptions. That judgment, shaped by experience, is wisdom. A mechanic may know how to take apart an engine and put it back together. They understand how each part works, but a wise mechanic listens to a car, senses a problem before it fully develops, and understands when a cheaper repair today will prevent an expensive one tomorrow. That skill does not come from reading manuals. It comes from years of hands-on work, mistakes, and learning how different models behave over time. Wisdom is not just about experience. Experience alone does not guarantee it. A person may go through many situations but not learn from them. Wisdom requires reflection. It means looking back on past choices and asking, what went well? What did not? What could I have done differently? Without this habit of thinking critically, a person repeats the same mistakes. A young manager may struggle with their team at first. They may push too hard or not give enough direction. If they reflect, they will notice patterns. They may see that employees respond better when given more autonomy or when feedback is given privately rather than in a group. Over time, they adjust their approach, not just based on rules from a leadership book, but on what they have seen work in practice. That is how wisdom forms. Judgment is another key piece. People face choices daily, big and small. Not all options are equal, and wisdom helps separate the good from the bad. It helps recognize not just what is right in a technical sense, but what makes sense in a specific moment, given the context. A police officer may know the law well. They know when an action is illegal. But wisdom helps them understand when to enforce a rule strictly and when to use discretion. If a young person shoplifts for the first time, an officer with wisdom may see that a warning and a call to their parents will do more good than an arrest. They recognize the long-term impact of choices. They understand the difference between applying a rule and doing what is best in a situation. Wisdom also involves recognizing limits. No one knows everything. A wise person understands when they need more information. They know when to listen rather than speak. They value input from others and are not afraid to admit when they are wrong. A skilled investor does not rely only on past success. They know markets change. They seek advice, study trends, and avoid overconfidence. They recognize that even with years of experience, there is always more to learn. That humility is part of wisdom. Another aspect is understanding human nature. People are complex. Emotions, motivations, and biases shape decisions. A wise person does not just see facts, they see people. They understand that someone's anger may come from fear, that a person resisting change may not be stubborn but uncertain. They recognize that the right words at the right time can change an outcome. A teacher dealing with a difficult student may not just punish bad behavior. They may look deeper and realize the child is struggling at home. Instead of just discipline, they offer guidance, patience, and support. They use wisdom to shape a response that helps rather than just corrects. Wisdom also requires patience. Some problems cannot be solved quickly. Some decisions require waiting for the right moment. A wise person does not rush into action without thinking. They understand that some conflicts settle on their own. Some truths reveal themselves over time. A farmer knows that crops cannot be forced to grow faster than nature allows. They prepare the soil, plant at the right time, and wait. If they rush, they may plant too early and risk frost, or too late and miss the growing season. They trust the process, using their experience and judgment to guide their timing. Adaptability is another trait of wisdom. Life does not follow a set script. What worked yesterday may not work today. A wise person is willing to change course when needed. They do not cling to old ways just because they are familiar. They recognize when a new approach is required. A business owner who has run a store for decades may resist going online. They may think, "This is how I have always done it." But wisdom allows them to see that times change. They learn about e-commerce, adapt, and find success in a new way. They do not let past success blind them to the need for growth. Not everyone values wisdom. Some people prioritize speed, power, or short-term gain, but wisdom often proves its worth over time. It prevents costly mistakes. It builds trust. People seek out the advice of those who show wisdom because they see the results. A politician focused only on quick wins may make popular choices in the short term, but harm the country in the long run. A wise leader thinks beyond the next election. They consider how decisions will play out years from now. They focus on sustainable progress rather than easy fixes. Wisdom also protects against manipulation. In a world full of misinformation, half-truths, and emotional appeals, wisdom helps separate truth from deception. A wise person questions before accepting. They recognize when someone is using fear to influence decisions. They know that just because something sounds good does not mean it is right. A journalist with wisdom does not jump to conclusions. They verify sources. They ask, who benefits from this narrative? They resist pressure to publish fast at the cost of accuracy. Their wisdom guides them toward careful, fair reporting rather than sensationalism. Wisdom is not limited to certain professions or ages. It is found in people from all walks of life. An elderly grandmother who has raised a family may have deep wisdom about human nature. A young person who has faced hardship and learned from it may develop wisdom beyond their years. It is not about how long someone has lived, but how much they have learned from living. It is not always easy to tell who has wisdom. Some people speak confidently, but lack depth. Others may be quiet, yet hold great insight. Wisdom is often recognized in hindsight. When looking back at choices, people may realize that the wisest voice was the one they did not listen to at the time. Gaining wisdom is a lifelong process. It requires being open to learning, paying attention to patterns, and being willing to change when necessary. It means thinking before acting, listening before speaking, and considering long-term effects rather than just immediate results. Those who seek wisdom find that it serves them in all areas of life. It helps in relationships, careers, and personal growth. It builds resilience, allowing people to navigate uncertainty with confidence. It turns knowledge into something more valuable, a guide for making better decisions, understanding others, and moving through life with clarity and purpose. Faith is a strong belief in something, often without proof. People hold faith in different ways and for different reasons. Some believe in a higher power, trusting in a force beyond human understanding. Others have faith in people, ideas, or even themselves. Faith exists in many forms and influences decisions, actions, and emotions. It often fills gaps where logic or evidence cannot provide certainty. A person stepping onto an airplane has faith that the engineers built it correctly, that the pilots are trained, and that the systems will work as intended. There is no way to check all these things before boarding. The passenger trusts, without direct proof, that everything will function as expected. This is a simple, everyday example of faith, but faith extends far beyond practical matters. Religious faith is one of the most common expressions of belief without proof. A person who follows a religion may not have direct evidence of their deity's existence, yet they trust in sacred texts, spiritual experiences, and traditions passed down over generations. Many find comfort in this belief, feeling guided by something greater than themselves. This form of faith often shapes morality, community, and personal purpose. It influences how people interact with others, how they view suffering, and how they find meaning in life's challenges. Faith also plays a role in relationships. A person entering into a friendship or romantic relationship does not have proof that the other person will always be loyal or kind. There is no certainty that the relationship will last. Still, they trust, without evidence, that the connection is genuine. They believe in the other person's character and the strength of the bond they share. Without this kind of faith, deep human connections would be difficult to maintain. Some rely on faith in themselves. An artist begins a painting without knowing if it will turn out as imagined. A scientist starts an experiment without certainty that it will succeed. An entrepreneur builds a business with no guarantee of success. These actions require faith in one's abilities and ideas. This kind of belief can push a person forward when logic alone might hold them back. It can provide the motivation to take risks, try new things, and endure setbacks. Faith can also be seen in larger social movements. Civil rights leaders, activists, and visionaries often work for change without any proof that their efforts will succeed. They continue despite obstacles because they believe in the possibility of a better future. Their faith in justice, equality, or human potential drives them to keep pushing forward, even when progress seems impossible. A child learning to walk trusts that they will succeed, even though they have never done it before. A student studying for a test believes that their effort will pay off, even though they cannot see the results in advance. An athlete training for a competition trusts that their hard work will lead to improvement. These moments all reflect faith in action, moving forward without certainty but with confidence. Some struggle with faith, questioning whether it is reasonable to believe in something without proof. Doubt often accompanies faith. A person may wonder whether their trust is misplaced. They may question their beliefs, reconsider their relationships, or feel unsure about their future. This tension between faith and doubt is natural. It can lead to deeper understanding, personal growth, and even stronger convictions. Faith is not always positive. Misplaced faith can lead to disappointment or harm. A person who blindly trusts a dishonest friend may suffer betrayal. Someone who follows a belief without questioning it may be misled. Faith, when combined with critical thinking, can be a powerful force, but when taken to extremes, it can lead to deception, control, or loss. Throughout history, faith has driven great achievements and terrible mistakes. Scientific discoveries often begin with a belief that something is possible, even before there is evidence to support it. Medical advancements, space exploration, and technological progress all start with faith in an idea. At the same time, history also shows cases where people followed harmful beliefs without questioning them, leading to wars, persecution, and suffering. Faith exists in everyday life, in major decisions and small choices alike. It shapes the way people see the world, how they treat others, and how they approach the unknown. It is not limited to religion or grand ideals. It appears in simple moments: a parent believing in their child's future, a teacher trusting that their lessons will make a difference, a patient believing in their doctor's treatment plan. Faith is a personal experience. Some feel it deeply, while others question its place in their lives. It can be a source of strength, a guiding force, or a challenge to overcome. It often changes over time, influenced by experiences, knowledge, and personal growth. Whether it is faith in a higher power, in people, in oneself, or in the unknown, it plays a role in shaping human thoughts and actions. Hope is the expectation for something positive in the future. It keeps people moving forward even when life is difficult. It's the belief that things will get better, even if there's no clear reason to think so. A person stuck in a tough job might hope for a promotion. Someone recovering from an illness hopes to get stronger. A student struggling in school hopes that studying harder will lead to better grades. Hope is not a guarantee. It does not promise results. But it gives people a reason to try. A person hoping for a better future often takes action to make it happen. A runner training for a marathon hopes to cross the finish line. That hope pushes them to wake up early and train. Without hope, they might stay in bed. A writer working on a novel hopes to see their book in print. That hope keeps them writing, even when they feel stuck. Someone looking for a job after being unemployed for months keeps sending applications because they hope to find a new opportunity. Hope does not ensure success, but it makes effort possible. Hope is not always based on logic. Sometimes it exists without proof. A person lost at sea may have no reason to believe rescue is coming, but they hope anyway. That hope keeps them paddling, searching for land, or holding on just a little longer. A family waiting for news about a missing loved one might have no evidence that everything will be okay, but hope stops them from giving up. People who have been through difficult situations often say that hope helped them survive. It gave them something to hold on to when everything else felt uncertain. Hope can be small and simple. A child hopes for a good grade on a test. A worker hopes for a quiet commute. A cook hopes the new recipe will turn out well. These small hopes fill daily life. They give people little moments of excitement or motivation. But hope can also be big and complex. A refugee hopes for a safer home. A scientist hopes for a cure to a disease. A person struggling with depression hopes for a day when they feel better. These larger hopes shape lives, decisions, and even history. Hope is different from wishing. A wish is passive. A person might wish to win the lottery, but they don't control the outcome. Hope, on the other hand, often leads to effort. A student who hopes to get into college studies harder. A musician who hopes for a career in music keeps practicing. Hope does not just sit and wait. It moves people to act. Sometimes, hope is hard to hold on to. When someone faces repeated failure, they might feel like giving up. A person searching for a job for months might start to believe that they will never find one. A couple trying to have a child after years of disappointment might start to lose hope. A person dealing with chronic pain might begin to believe they will never feel relief. When hope fades, people sometimes stop trying. They withdraw, expecting the worst. In these moments, even a small reminder that things can change can bring hope back. A kind word from a friend, a small piece of good news, or even a simple moment of peace can be enough to restart hope. Hope can be contagious. Seeing someone else hold on to hope, even in hard times, can inspire others to do the same. A teacher who believes in a struggling student gives that student hope. A leader who speaks with confidence can inspire a group to keep going. A parent who stays strong during a crisis gives their child hope that things will be okay. Hope spreads through words, actions, and even unspoken confidence. Not all hope is realistic. Sometimes people hold on to false hope. They may refuse to accept facts because hope feels better than facing the truth. A gambler might keep betting, hoping for a big win, even when the odds are against them. A person in a toxic relationship might hope for change that will never come. False hope can lead people to waste time, money, or energy on things that will never happen. This does not mean hope is bad. It means that hope needs to be balanced with understanding and awareness. Hope plays a role in healing. Doctors often see that patients who have hope recover better than those who don't. A A person fighting cancer may feel exhausted, but hope gives them strength to keep going through treatments. Someone in physical therapy after an accident might struggle with pain, but hope helps them push through each session. Hope does not cure illness, but it helps people endure. Hope is deeply connected to the human experience. It exists in every culture, every time period, and every person. It has driven people to build, to create, and to keep trying even in the darkest moments. Wars have been fought because of hope. Revolutions have started because people hoped for a better world. Artists, inventors, and leaders have changed history because they hoped their ideas could make a difference. A person can live without many things, but without hope, life becomes difficult. Hope does not remove struggles. It does not erase pain, but it allows people to believe in something better, and that belief often changes what they do next. Hope pushes people forward. It gives them a reason to wake up, to keep going, and to believe that tomorrow might be different from today. Despair is the feeling that nothing will get better. It creeps in when someone believes they have no way out of a difficult situation. It is more than sadness. Sadness comes and goes, but despair lingers. It takes hold when hope disappears, making every effort seem useless. A person in despair does not see a future that is different from the pain they feel now. They might stop trying to improve things because they think nothing will work. It is not about a bad day or a tough week. Despair is when struggle feels endless and solutions seem impossible. A person losing a job might feel discouraged. They might worry about money or what comes next. That worry can push them to apply for new jobs. Despair is different. Despair is believing no job will ever come. It is waking up and thinking there is no reason to send another application. It is convincing oneself that failure is guaranteed, so trying is pointless. When someone reaches this point, even small obstacles feel massive. A rejection email might feel like proof that nothing will ever change. A delay in response might be taken as confirmation that they are worthless. Despair is often linked to isolation. When people lose hope, they may pull away from others. They may think no one understands or that no one cares. This makes it worse. A person drowning in despair often believes they are the only one suffering in this way. They may see other people as happy and successful, which makes them feel even more alone. In reality, many people experience despair at some point in their lives, but when someone is deep in it, they struggle to see beyond their own pain. They may avoid friends and family, not because they do not want help, but because they believe help is useless. Some people experience despair because of a personal loss. A person grieving the death of a loved one may feel that life has lost all meaning. They might struggle to get out of bed, not because they are physically unable, but because they do not see the point. Every daily task may feel hollow. Food has no taste. Laughter feels distant. Time drags. The world keeps moving, but they feel stuck in place. Others may experience despair after repeated failures. An artist who faces rejection after rejection might stop creating. They may believe they will never succeed, so picking up a brush or pen becomes painful. A student who fails an important test might think they will never be smart enough, so studying seems useless. In each case, despair takes over when the person stops believing improvement is possible. Despair affects the body as well as the mind. It can cause exhaustion, not just from lack of sleep, but from the weight of hopelessness. People in despair often struggle with focus. Their thoughts loop in circles, replaying negative memories or imagining worst-case scenarios. They may lose their appetite or overeat, trying to fill a void that food cannot fix. They might neglect hygiene, not because they do not care, but because caring feels like effort they no longer have. Even breathing can feel heavy, as if each inhale is a task rather than something natural. Some people express despair openly. They cry, lash out, or say they feel lost. Others hide it. They go through daily routines with a blank expression, nodding when required, but feeling nothing inside. Some even joke about their hopelessness, making light of their suffering so others will not worry. It is easy to overlook despair in these cases because the person appears functional, but inside, they may be crumbling. They may believe no one will notice if they disappear, or worse, that people would be better off without them. Despair can be triggered by major life events, but it can also build slowly. Some people feel it after years of stress, disappointment, or loneliness. A person in an unhappy marriage might not notice despair creeping in until one day they wake up and feel completely numb. An employee stuck in a dead-end job might not recognize it until they catch themselves staring blankly at their computer screen, unable to care about their work. It does not always strike like lightning. Often, it is a slow fade, a gradual loss of enthusiasm until there is nothing left. Despair does not always look the way people expect. It is not just someone crying in a dark room. It can be the coworker who stays late every night, burying themselves in work to avoid their thoughts. It can be the friend who always makes jokes but never talks about their real feelings. It can be the family member who seems fine but quietly withdraws from conversations. Because despair is so internal, it is easy to miss. People may not say they have lost hope. They may not even realize it themselves until they reach a breaking point. For some, despair is temporary. They might feel hopeless for a while, but then something shifts. A kind word from a friend, an unexpected opportunity, or even a change in routine can break the cycle. Others struggle longer. When despair lasts for months or years, it can reshape a person's entire outlook. They may stop making plans. They may give up on relationships or dreams they once cherished. They may start to believe that happiness is for other people, not for them. The longer despair lasts, the harder it can be to break free from its grip. Even though despair feels final, it is not. Many people who have felt completely hopeless later find meaning again. Some rediscover joy through small moments, a favorite song, a deep conversation, a walk outside. Others find strength in professional help, whether through therapy, medication, or community support. The path out of despair is rarely instant. It is often slow and unsteady. Some days are better, some are worse, but even when it feels impossible, change can happen. No matter how deep despair runs, it is not the only feeling that exists. Hope can return, even when it feels lost forever. Power is the ability to influence or control. It exists in many forms, shaping relationships, organizations, and entire societies. Some people gain power through knowledge, while others hold it through position or force. Power is not always obvious. It can be quiet, like a skilled negotiator steering a conversation, or loud, like a government enforcing laws. A teacher holds power over a classroom. They decide what students learn, how they behave, and what rules they must follow. Their power is not absolute. A student who refuses to listen challenges that authority. A school principal holds greater power, setting policies that teachers and students must follow. Beyond that, the school board influences what the principal can do. At each level, power comes with limits. In a workplace, a manager has power over employees. They assign tasks, set deadlines, and decide who gets promoted. But that power depends on the structure of the company. A CEO holds more power than a manager. A board of directors may hold even more, making decisions that affect everyone in the organization. Yet, power in a company is not always tied to a job title. An experienced worker who knows how to solve complex problems can hold influence even over their boss. When a company faces a crisis, it is often the person with the right knowledge, not just the highest title, who determines the next steps. In politics, power shapes laws, policies, and entire governments. A president or prime minister leads a country, but their power is rarely absolute. They answer to voters, lawmakers, and courts. A government official may have the power to make decisions, but public opinion can limit their actions. A single journalist uncovering corruption can shift power by revealing the truth. A protest movement can challenge government authority, forcing leaders to change their actions. Power exists in personal relationships as well. A parent holds power over a child, making decisions for their well-being. A friend who is persuasive may influence decisions without force. In a romantic relationship, power shifts over time. One person may make more decisions, but balance matters. When one person controls too much, the relationship may suffer. Power can come from money, knowledge, or connections. A wealthy person can buy influence, funding political campaigns or media outlets to shape public opinion. Someone with deep knowledge in a field holds power because others rely on their expertise. A person with the right social connections can gain opportunities that others cannot. Not all power is visible. Soft power influences without direct control. A country may spread its culture, values, or ideas to gain influence without using force. A well-known scientist can shape debates without passing laws. A business can change how people live through advertising and branding, shifting consumer behavior without forcing anyone to act. Power can be used for good or bad. A leader who listens and makes fair decisions strengthens an organization. A dictator who silences opposition uses power to maintain control, often harming others. A police officer has the power to enforce laws, but that power must be balanced with accountability. When power goes unchecked, it can lead to abuse. Power is not permanent. It shifts over time. A ruler who loses public support may be overthrown. A CEO who makes poor decisions may be replaced. An athlete who dominates a sport eventually faces younger, stronger competitors. Those who hold power must work to maintain it. Some do this through competence, making decisions that benefit others. Others use fear or manipulation to keep control. Sometimes power is taken. A revolution can remove a government. A whistleblower can expose corruption, leading to a company's downfall. A new technology can make an old industry obsolete, shifting economic power. A person who feels powerless may find a way to gain control, changing their circumstances. Power also depends on perception. A leader who appears strong can maintain influence even when facing challenges. A company that looks successful attracts investors, even if financial trouble looms. A person who acts with confidence may be treated as powerful, even without formal authority. Because power is fluid, those who understand it can navigate different situations more effectively. They can recognize when to challenge authority and when to align with it. They can see hidden sources of power and use them to their advantage. They can build influence without needing a title. In every part of life, power shapes interactions. It determines who makes decisions, who follows, and who resists. Understanding power means seeing the forces that drive people, organizations, and societies. It means recognizing influence in all its forms and knowing how it changes over time. Weakness is a lack of strength or ability. It can take many forms, from physical limitations to mental or emotional struggles. People encounter weakness in different ways. A person may feel physically weak after an illness or injury. Another may struggle with a lack of skill in a particular task. Weakness is not always obvious, and sometimes it is more about perception than reality. A common example of weakness is physical fatigue. When a person works long hours or exercises intensely, their body eventually reaches a limit. Muscles tremble, energy fades, and simple tasks feel harder. This kind of weakness is temporary. With rest, nutrition, and hydration, strength returns. Some forms of physical weakness, however, last longer. Age, chronic illness, or injury can reduce a person's ability to perform everyday activities. An elderly person who once walked briskly may find it hard to stand up without support. Someone recovering from surgery may feel drained after taking a few steps. These are not failures, but natural responses to the body's condition. Beyond physical limitations, weakness appears in skill and knowledge gaps. A person learning a new language struggles with grammar and pronunciation. Someone unfamiliar with technology may find a new software program confusing. These weaknesses create frustration, especially when others perform the same tasks with ease. But weakness in a skill is not permanent. With practice, learning, and patience, people improve. The initial struggle is part of the process. Emotional weakness is harder to define. It may show up as difficulty handling stress, an inability to control emotions, or a fear of confrontation. A person who avoids difficult conversations may see themselves as weak. Another who cries easily might believe they lack emotional control. These perceptions come from social expectations. Many cultures value toughness and resilience. People are taught to stay strong or push through, as if emotions are a flaw. In reality, feeling emotions deeply is not weakness. It is part of being human. The real challenge is managing emotions in a way that serves one's well-being and relationships. Mental weakness often relates to self-doubt and fear. A person may hesitate to try something new because they believe they will fail. They might avoid speaking up in meetings because they fear criticism. This form of weakness is not about ability, but mindset. A skilled musician who believes they are not talented enough to perform in public is limited by their own thoughts. Overcoming mental weakness requires changing one's inner dialogue. It involves recognizing fears and learning to challenge them. Social weakness appears in relationships and interactions. Some people struggle to connect with others. They may feel anxious in social situations or find it hard to express themselves. Others may have trouble setting boundaries, saying yes when they want to say no. These weaknesses create challenges in personal and professional life. A person who avoids conflict may struggle to advocate for themselves. Another who finds it hard to trust may keep others at a distance. These patterns can be difficult to break, but they are not unchangeable. With awareness and effort, people can build stronger social skills and relationships. Financial weakness is another common struggle. A person living paycheck to paycheck may feel powerless over their situation. Debt, job instability, and lack of savings create stress and limit choices. Financial weakness does not always come from poor decisions. Unexpected expenses, medical bills, or economic downturns can push even the most responsible person into a difficult position. Overcoming financial weakness requires knowledge and strategy. Budgeting, saving, and planning help create stability over time. Some weaknesses are personal, while others come from external factors. A person may struggle with low self-esteem because of childhood experiences. Someone facing discrimination or bias may feel weak in the face of systemic challenges. These weaknesses are not personal failures. They are shaped by circumstances beyond an individual's control. Recognizing the difference between internal and external weakness helps in finding solutions. Perceived weakness can sometimes be strength in disguise. A person who hesitates before making decisions may seem indecisive. In reality, they may be thoughtful and careful. Someone who struggles with confrontation may be deeply empathetic, considering others' feelings before speaking. What looks like weakness in one situation can be valuable in another. The way people respond to weakness shapes their experience. Some hide their struggles, fearing judgment. Others avoid challenges that expose their limitations. These responses can create more difficulty in the long run. A person who avoids social situations because of anxiety may feel relief in the moment. Over time, however, their isolation grows, making social interactions even harder. Facing weakness, even in small steps, leads to progress. Weakness is part of life. Everyone has areas where they struggle. Some weaknesses change over time, while others remain constant. Accepting limitations does not mean giving up. It means recognizing where growth is possible and where adaptation is needed. Some weaknesses can be improved with effort. Others require working around them or seeking support. A person with a learning disability may never read at the same speed as others, but they can use tools and strategies to succeed in their own way. Understanding weakness helps in dealing with it. Rather than seeing it as a flaw, it helps to view it as information. A person who knows their physical limits can make better choices about exercise and activity. Someone aware of their emotional triggers can prepare for challenging situations. Recognizing financial weakness allows for smarter money management. Awareness is the first step toward improvement. Weakness also connects people. No one is strong in every area. A person skilled in one thing may struggle with another. Someone confident in public speaking may have difficulty managing their emotions in private. A great athlete may lack patience for learning new skills. Recognizing this balance helps in building empathy. It reminds people that everyone has their own struggles, even if they are not visible. There is also a difference between weakness and vulnerability. Being vulnerable means allowing oneself to be seen, flaws included. It requires honesty and courage. A person who admits their struggles is not necessarily weak. In fact, acknowledging difficulties can be a sign of strength. It allows for connection, support, and growth. Weakness does not define a person. It is a part of life, something to navigate rather than fear. Strength is not the absence of weakness, but the ability to manage and respond to it. Everyone has weaknesses, but everyone also has strengths. The key is knowing when to push through, when to adapt, and when to ask for help. Reality is the state of things as they actually exist. It is what is true, independent of belief, opinion, or perception. It includes everything we can see, hear, touch, and measure, as well as things that exist beyond our ability to sense or fully understand. Reality is not always easy to define because people experience the world in different ways. Even though there is an objective reality, Individual interpretations can vary based on knowledge, background, and perspective. Consider a simple example. A tree stands in a park. It has a trunk, leaves, and roots. It grows, responds to sunlight, and interacts with the environment. The tree exists whether someone looks at it or not. That is its reality. But people may describe the tree differently. A botanist might classify it by species, describing its biological traits. A poet may focus on its beauty and symbolism. A child might see it as a good place to climb. While all these descriptions are valid in their contexts, they do not change the actual state of the tree. It remains what it is, regardless of interpretation. Reality extends beyond what we immediately observe. The air we breathe is real, though we cannot see it. Microscopic organisms live on our skin and in our environment, even if we are unaware of them. Distant galaxies exist, though they are beyond our daily experience. Scientific tools help us understand aspects of reality that are too small, too large, or too far away to perceive with our senses. Telescopes show us stars and planets billions of light years away. Microscopes reveal bacteria and cells. Sensors detect radiation, sound waves, and magnetic fields. These tools expand our understanding, but they do not create reality. They only help us access what already exists. Reality includes not only physical objects, but also laws and principles that govern them. Gravity pulls objects toward the ground. Light travels at a specific speed. Chemical reactions follow predictable patterns. These rules hold true regardless of personal beliefs. A person may choose not to believe in gravity, but if they jump off a ledge, they will still fall. The laws of physics do not change based on opinion. They exist as part of reality. Human perception of reality is shaped by the senses, but senses are not always reliable. Optical illusions can trick the eyes. Sounds can seem different depending on the environment. Temperature may feel warmer or colder based on recent exposure. These variations show that perception is not the same as reality. People rely on memory and prior experiences to interpret what they sense, but memory can be flawed. A person might recall an event differently from how it actually happened. Witnesses to the same incident may give different accounts. Despite these differences, there is still one reality that remains true. Beliefs and emotions influence how people see reality. Two individuals can look at the same situation and interpret it in opposite ways. A rainy day may feel gloomy to one person and refreshing to another. The weather itself does not change. Only the personal reaction differs. Cultural background also affects perception. What is normal in one culture may seem unusual in another, but that does not mean reality itself changes. The customs and traditions are real, but the way they are understood varies. Science is one of the best tools for uncovering reality because it relies on observation, experimentation, and evidence. The scientific method tests ideas against the real world to see whether they hold up. If an idea does not match observed reality, it is revised or discarded. This process has led to discoveries that have reshaped human understanding. For centuries, people believed the Earth was the center of the universe. Observations and calculations proved that the Earth orbits the Sun. The reality did not change, only the human understanding of it did. Despite efforts to understand reality, some aspects remain unknown. The universe is vast, and many mysteries exist beyond current knowledge. Scientists explore dark matter, quantum mechanics, and the origins of life, but full explanations are not yet available. Lack of understanding does not mean something is unreal. It only means more evidence is needed. Over time, new discoveries bring a clearer picture of reality. Technology plays a role in shaping how people interact with reality. Virtual reality and augmented reality create immersive experiences that can feel real, but they are simulations. A person using virtual reality may see and hear a digital environment, but it does not exist outside the system. These experiences can be useful for training, entertainment, or research, but they are not reality itself. They are designed representations of reality or imagined spaces. In daily life, distinguishing reality from illusion is important. Advertising, social media, and entertainment present images that may not reflect the truth. Edited photos, staged scenes, and exaggerated claims can distort reality. A product might look perfect in an advertisement but appear different in real life. A social media profile may show only the highlights of a person's life, leaving out struggles and difficulties. Recognizing these differences helps people navigate the world with clarity. Language and communication also influence how reality is understood. Words describe experiences, but they do not always capture the full truth. A story can be told from multiple perspectives, each highlighting different details. Political and ideological debates often involve disagreements over reality. People frame issues in ways that support their views. The facts remain the same, but the way they are presented can create different impressions. Philosophy questions the nature of reality and what can be known for certain. Some theories suggest that reality is entirely dependent on perception, while others argue that an objective reality exists regardless of human awareness. The debate has continued for centuries. While philosophical discussions are valuable, everyday life operates on the assumption that reality is consistent. People trust that the sun will rise, that objects will remain solid, and that natural laws will hold. Dreams and imagination introduce another layer to the discussion. In a dream, a person experiences events that feel real at the time. Upon waking, they recognize that the dream was not part of actual reality. Similarly, fiction creates stories that can be compelling and immersive, but are not real. These experiences can be meaningful, but they do not alter the fundamental nature of reality. Hallucinations and delusions, whether caused by illness, substance use, or other factors, present challenges in understanding reality. A person experiencing a hallucination perceives something that is not there. They may see, hear, or feel things without an external cause. To them, the experience feels real, but it does not exist outside their mind. Medical and psychological evaluations help distinguish between real events and altered perceptions. Historical records show that human understanding of reality has changed over time. Advances in science, technology, and philosophy have refined knowledge. Yet reality itself does not shift based on human interpretation. The Earth was round before people knew it. Germs caused disease before microscopes revealed them. The truth of reality is independent of awareness. Recognizing reality is essential for making informed decisions. Acting based on false information can lead to mistakes. Understanding reality allows people to solve problems, improve lives, and make progress. When reality is ignored or denied, consequences follow. Accepting reality does not mean everything is fully understood, but it means working with evidence and reason to grasp the truth as accurately as possible. Reality exists whether or not it is understood, perceived, or accepted. It is the foundation upon which everything happens, the state of things as they actually are. Illusions shape the way people see the world, often in ways they do not realize. They trick the mind into perceiving something that does not match reality. These false perceptions can appear in different forms, from visual distortions to deeply held beliefs. Understanding how illusions work helps in recognizing when perception does not align with reality. A simple example of illusion appears in everyday life through optical illusions. A common one is the Muller-Lyer illusion, where two lines of the same length appear to be different sizes because of the arrows at their ends. The mind interprets the image incorrectly because it relies on past experiences with perspective. This shows how the brain fills in gaps based on assumptions rather than objective truth. Another example is a mirage in the desert. From a distance, it looks like water, but it is just the refraction of light. The eye perceives something that is not there, leading to a misunderstanding of the physical world. Beyond sight, illusions extend to other senses. In the McGurk effect, what a person hears changes based on the visual cues they see. If a video shows someone saying one syllable while the audio plays a different one, the brain creates a third sound. The illusion is so strong that even knowing about it does not make it disappear. This example highlights how perception is not just passive reception of information, but an active process where the brain constructs reality. Illusions do not only exist in sensory perception, they play a role in cognition and beliefs. People often hold illusions about themselves, others, and the world. The placebo effect is one example. If someone believes a pill will relieve their pain, they may feel better even if the pill has no active ingredients. The expectation of relief changes their experience, proving that belief influences perception. Another example is the optimism bias. Many people believe they are less likely than others to experience negative events, even when statistics suggest otherwise. This illusion creates a sense of security but does not reflect reality. Memory is also susceptible to illusion. False memories happen when people recall events that never took place or remember details incorrectly. Studies show that subtle suggestions can alter memories. In one experiment, participants were shown a video of a car accident. When asked how fast the cars were going when they smashed into each other, they reported higher speeds than when asked how fast they were going when they hit each other. The wording of the question changed their perception of the event. Over time, memories become less reliable, and the brain fills in missing details with assumptions, making it easy to believe something that never happened. Social illusions influence large groups of people. Mass hysteria occurs when fear spreads through a community, leading to false beliefs or exaggerated reactions. In 1938, Orson Welles broadcasted The War of the Worlds, a radio drama about an alien invasion. Many listeners believed it was real and panicked. The illusion of a real invasion took hold because of the convincing storytelling and the context of the time. A more recent example is the Mandela effect, where large numbers of people remember events differently than they occurred. Some people recall the Berenstain Bears as the Berenstain Bears, convinced the spelling changed in some mysterious way. This phenomenon demonstrates how collective memory can be flawed. Financial illusions affect decision-making. People often misjudge value because of the way information is presented. The framing effect is an example. If a product is labeled as 90% fat-free rather than contains 10% fat, people perceive it as healthier. The same principle applies to money. In a study, participants were given either $50 outright or $100 with a required $50 fee. Although both resulted in the same outcome, those who received the $100 first felt like they had lost money, showing how perception influences financial behavior. Another example is the illusion of skill in stock trading. Many investors believe they can consistently outperform the market, but studies show that most active traders do not. The illusion of control makes them think they have an edge when in reality, they are often acting on chance. Time perception is another area where illusion plays a role. When people are engaged in an enjoyable activity, time seems to move quickly. When they are bored, time drags. The brain does not measure time in absolute terms, but interprets it based on attention and experience. This is why the same duration of time can feel different depending on circumstances. The holiday paradox explains why vacations feel short while they are happening, but seem longer in retrospect. When people experience new things, they form more memories, making the past feel richer. On the other hand, routine days seem to disappear because fewer distinct memories are created. Illusions can also shape political and social opinions. The false consensus effect leads people to believe that their views are more widely shared than they actually are. If someone strongly supports a particular policy, they may assume most others do too, even if that is not the case. Social media amplifies this effect by creating echo chambers. Algorithms show users content that aligns with their existing beliefs, reinforcing their views. This can create the illusion that certain opinions are more common than they are, making it difficult to see alternative perspectives. Advertising and marketing rely on illusions to influence consumers. The decoy effect is a strategy where an option is introduced to make another choice seem more attractive. If a coffee shop sells a small coffee for $3 and a large for $6, many people choose the small. But if they introduce a medium for $5.50, more people pick the large because it seems like a better deal. The medium acts as a decoy, shifting perception. Another example is branding. People often believe that expensive brands are better than cheaper alternatives, even when the products are identical. Blind taste tests show that many people cannot tell the difference between premium and generic brands, yet the perception of quality remains. Even relationships are influenced by illusion. The halo effect occurs when a positive impression in one area leads to positive assumptions in other areas. If someone is physically attractive, people may assume they are also intelligent or kind, even without evidence. This can shape hiring decisions, friendships, and romantic relationships. On the flip side, the horn effect works in the opposite way. A single negative trait can lead to negative assumptions about a person's overall character. These illusions affect judgment and behavior, often without conscious awareness. The human mind is wired to seek patterns and meaning, which makes it vulnerable to illusion. It takes shortcuts to process vast amounts of information quickly, but these shortcuts do not always lead to accurate conclusions. Recognizing this tendency helps in questioning assumptions and making better decisions. While illusions can be fascinating and even entertaining, they also highlight the limits of perception. Understanding them provides insight into how people interact with the world and how easily reality can be distorted. Destiny is the idea that events in life follow a set path. It suggests that no matter what choices a person makes, the outcome is already determined. Some see destiny as a force that controls life, while others think of it as a pattern that unfolds naturally. The debate over whether people shape their own lives or follow a pre-written script has existed for centuries. A person might wake up one morning and wonder if the choices they make that day truly matter. They may decide to take a different route to work or start a conversation with someone new. If they end up in the same place regardless of those choices, was it always meant to happen? This question touches on the essence of destiny. Some believe everything is planned from the start, while others argue that people carve their own paths. Ancient civilizations built stories around the idea of destiny. Greek mythology tells of the Fates, three sisters who spin, measure, and cut the thread of each person's life. No one, not even the gods, can change their decisions. In Norse mythology, the Norns perform a similar role, shaping the fate of all beings. These myths show how deeply rooted the idea of destiny is in human thought. People have long struggled with the question of control versus inevitability. Some believe destiny is tied to divine will. In many religious traditions, a higher power sets the course of life. A person may feel guided toward a particular path, believing they were meant to take it. Others see destiny as a natural unfolding of the universe. They think of it as the way things fall into place rather than a script written by a divine hand. Science offers another perspective. In physics, the idea of determinism suggests that if every event has a cause, then the future is predictable. If someone knew the position of every particle in the universe, they could theoretically calculate everything that would happen next. This view aligns with destiny because it implies that events follow a set course. However, modern discoveries, such as quantum mechanics, challenge this idea. At the smallest level, particles behave unpredictably. This raises questions about whether the future is truly fixed. In everyday life, destiny often feels personal. A person may look back at key moments and feel they were meant to happen. Perhaps they meet someone who changes their life, and it seems too perfect to be random. A job opportunity might appear just when they need it most. These experiences create a sense that events are connected by more than coincidence. People often talk about destiny when something feels too meaningful to be accidental. A couple might meet under unusual circumstances and feel they were meant to be together. A musician might pick up an instrument and instantly know it's their calling. These moments make it easy to believe in a larger plan. However, others argue that the human mind naturally looks for patterns. People connect dots even when no real connection exists. The idea of destiny can be comforting or restrictive. On one hand, it gives life meaning. If events happen for a reason, then struggles and setbacks are part of a bigger picture. Someone who loses a job may believe it happened to push them towards something better. This mindset helps people cope with difficulties and move forward. On the other hand, destiny can feel limiting. If everything is set in stone, then effort and ambition might seem pointless. A person who believes they are destined to fail may not try to change their situation. This belief can create a cycle where expectation becomes reality. If someone assumes they will never find success, they may stop looking for opportunities, leading to the failure they expected. People often try to test the idea of destiny by making unexpected choices. Someone might take a spontaneous trip to see if it leads to something new. If they still end up in the same place they would have otherwise, it reinforces the idea of destiny. But if their life changes because of the decision, it suggests free will plays a role. Some traditions find a middle ground. They see destiny as a framework rather than a rigid script. A person may have a path laid out for them, but how they walk it is up to them. In this view, major events may be unavoidable, but the details depend on individual choices. Consider a person who dreams of becoming an artist. They might feel it's their destiny to create, but how they pursue that goal varies. One version of their life might involve formal training, while another involves self-study. Both lead them to the same point, but the journey differs. This idea allows for both fate and free will to coexist. Stories in literature often explore destiny in different ways. Some characters fight against it, only to find they can't escape their fate. Others embrace it, trusting that events will unfold as they should. A hero might resist a prophecy, only to fulfill it in an unexpected way. These narratives reflect the tension between control and inevitability. In real life, people sometimes experience moments that feel destined. A chance encounter leads to a lifelong friendship. A series of small decisions results in a major turning point. These experiences make it hard to dismiss the idea entirely. Even skeptics admit that some events feel too significant to be random. While some rely on destiny as a guiding force, others take a different approach. They see life as a series of choices rather than a set path. In this view, people shape their futures through their actions. A student who works hard may reach their goals not because it was destined, but because of effort and persistence. This mindset encourages responsibility and self-determination. However, even those who reject destiny acknowledge that certain factors influence life. A person's background, environment, and circumstances play a role in shaping their future. Some opportunities are available to one person, but not another. These factors create a sense of fate, even if they aren't supernatural. Someone born into a wealthy family has different choices than someone struggling financially. In this way, life can seem predetermined by circumstances rather than cosmic design. People also use destiny as a way to make sense of unpredictable events. When something unexpected happens, they may say it was meant to be. This helps them accept changes and move forward. It's easier to believe that things happen for a reason than to accept randomness. The idea of destiny is deeply personal. Some feel strongly that their life is guided by a larger force, while others believe they are in full control. Many fall somewhere in between, acknowledging both chance and personal choice. Regardless of perspective, the concept shapes how people view their lives and decisions. Whether destiny exists or not, the belief in it influences behavior. A person who thinks they are meant to achieve something may pursue it with more confidence. Even if destiny is an illusion, it can still shape reality through belief. This makes the idea both powerful and enduring. Choice is the act of making a decision. Every day, people face choices. Some are small, like what to eat for breakfast. Others are life-changing, like choosing a career path. The process of choosing involves weighing options, considering consequences, and making a final decision based on personal values, needs, or external pressures. While choice seems simple, it carries layers of complexity, shaped by circumstances, past experiences, and the limits of available information. A person walking into a coffee shop faces an immediate set of choices. They must decide what to order. If they have a usual drink, the decision is quick and familiar. But if they feel like trying something new, the process becomes more involved. They might scan the menu, compare different options, and think about price, taste, and mood before choosing. Even a simple coffee order reflects how choice works. There is a moment of hesitation, a weighing of options, and then a final selection. Once made, the choice dictates the outcome. A cappuccino instead of an espresso leads to a different experience, even if both choices result in caffeine satisfaction. Larger choices demand deeper thinking. A teenager deciding between two universities faces uncertainty. One school may offer a strong academic reputation, while another provides a better social environment. The student must evaluate what matters more. They may ask parents for advice, research online, and consider financial costs. Each factor plays a role in shaping the final decision. Even after choosing, doubt might linger. They may wonder if they picked the right path. This highlights an important part of choice. Uncertainty often follows even after a decision is made. People make choices based on different factors. Some choices rely on logic, where facts and reason guide the decision. A business owner deciding whether to expand might analyze market trends, financial data, and potential risks. Other choices stem from emotions. A person choosing a pet may ignore practical concerns and select an animal based on a deep personal connection. Many decisions blend both logic and emotion. A couple buying a home considers financial constraints, but also thinks about how a house feels like home. Both rational analysis and emotional instincts influence the final decision. The idea of free will suggests that people make choices independently, but external factors often shape decisions. A person might choose a job based on salary, but that decision could stem from financial pressures rather than personal preference. Social influence also plays a role. A child might pick a sport because friends play it, not because they love it. Marketing shapes consumer choices. A person shopping for shoes may believe they freely choose a brand, but advertising, peer opinions, and past experiences guide their selection. Even when a person believes they act independently, unseen influences affect their decisions. Some choices have clear right and wrong answers, while others exist in gray areas. Choosing to follow traffic laws is straightforward. Obeying signals keeps drivers safe and prevents accidents. But moral choices often lack clear answers. A journalist deciding whether to publish a sensitive story faces ethical dilemmas. Revealing the truth serves public interest, but the story might harm individuals. Here, choice involves weighing values, truth versus harm, public good versus personal consequences. Many real-life choices require navigating such complexities, where no option feels perfect. Sometimes people regret choices. A person who quits a stable job for a startup may later regret the decision if the business fails. Others feel regret over missed opportunities. A student who chose to skip studying for a test may later wish they had prepared better. Regret often comes from hindsight. When making a choice, people act with the knowledge available at the time. Later, new information may make the choice seem wrong, but at the moment, the person made the best decision they could. Understanding this helps in dealing with regret. Decisions are made within the limits of current knowledge, not future insight. Some choices are irreversible. A surgeon performing a procedure must make precise choices, as mistakes can be permanent. A person choosing to sign a legal contract may not easily reverse the decision. Other choices are flexible. A person who picks a movie to watch can stop midway and choose another. Recognizing which choices carry long-term consequences and which allow for change helps in decision-making. Serious choices require careful thought, while minor ones can be made with ease. People handle choices differently. Some make quick decisions, trusting instinct. Others analyze every detail, fearing mistakes. Each approach has benefits and drawbacks. Quick decision-makers adapt easily, but may overlook important details. Slow decision-makers avoid mistakes, but risk overthinking. A balance helps. Some situations require fast choices, while others demand patience and careful thought. Knowing when to rely on instinct and when to analyze details improves decision-making. The burden of choice can feel overwhelming. In a grocery store, too many options can make choosing difficult. A shopper facing 20 brands of cereal might struggle to decide. In contrast, fewer choices simplify the process. Studies show that when people have fewer options, they feel more satisfied with their decision. The paradox of choice suggests that while options provide freedom, too many can lead to stress. Simplifying choices, setting clear priorities, and focusing on needs rather than endless possibilities can ease decision-making. Some choices shape identity. A person deciding to pursue medicine, law, or art commits to a path that defines them. These choices influence how others see them and how they see themselves. A musician dedicating life to music forms an identity around that choice. Identity-based decisions carry emotional weight. A person choosing a career they love may accept financial instability as a trade-off. These choices define life paths, and once made, they often set a long-term course. Technology changes how people make choices. Online recommendations, algorithms, and data-driven suggestions shape decisions. A person browsing movies on a streaming platform sees options based on past preferences. Algorithms predict what they might enjoy. While this helps in decision-making, it also limits exposure to new choices. Instead of freely exploring, people often choose within the range of suggestions provided. Awareness of these influences helps in making independent choices rather than relying solely on recommendations. Fear affects choices. A person hesitating to take a new job may fear failure. Fear of rejection stops people from expressing feelings. Sometimes, avoiding a choice is itself a choice. Not speaking up, not taking action. These are decisions with consequences. Overcoming fear involves recognizing risks, but not letting them dictate choices. Some risks are necessary for growth. A person afraid of public speaking may avoid it, but facing that fear leads to improvement. Courage in decision-making leads to new opportunities and personal growth. People often seek advice when making choices. Friends, family, mentors all influence decisions. While advice helps, final decisions rest with the individual. A person choosing a college listens to parents but must consider their own preferences. Advice provides insight, but the responsibility of choice remains personal. No one else lives with the consequences, so decisions should reflect personal values and goals. Choice remains a fundamental part of life. Whether small or significant, each decision carries weight. The process of choosing shapes experiences, influences identity, and determines future paths. Every choice leads to an outcome, and understanding the factors involved helps in making better decisions. While choice may bring uncertainty, it also offers the power to shape one's own life. Nothingness is the absence of anything. It is the lack of substance, form, or meaning. It exists as an idea rather than something tangible. If you reach out, touch nothingness, there is nothing to feel. If you try to see it, there is nothing to observe. It is the opposite of everything, yet it remains a concept that people struggle to grasp. Imagine an empty room. At first glance, it might seem like nothing is there, but air fills the space and light reflects off the walls. True nothingness would remove even these elements. It would mean no space, no air, no light. It is not just emptiness, it is the absence of anything that could be empty. Even a vacuum in space, which seems like nothing, still contains stray particles and energy. Nothingness would go beyond that. It would strip away all matter and leave behind not even a void, because a void itself is still something. The idea of nothingness appears in philosophy, physics, and everyday thought. In philosophy, thinkers have debated whether true nothingness can exist. Some argue that the human mind cannot comprehend it because our experience is always tied to something. Others suggest that nothingness is a real possibility, existing outside our ability to detect it. In physics, theories about the origins of the universe touch on nothingness. Some suggest that before the Big Bang, there was nothing, not even time or space. But if time and space did not exist, can we really call it nothingness? Or was there simply no state to describe? Consider sleep without dreams. When someone wakes up, they might say, "I remember nothing." But their body existed in that time. The brain still functioned, processing internal signals. There was still something occurring, even if the person was not aware of it. Nothingness would mean the absence of even unconscious existence. It would mean not being rather than just not remembering. People often talk about nothingness in emotional terms. When someone feels empty, they may describe a sense of nothingness. They may feel as if nothing matters or that their life lacks purpose. But this is not true nothingness. It is a state of mind, a way of expressing disconnection. The feeling of nothingness is still something. It is an experience, an emotional response, a perception of void rather than an actual void. In language, nothingness appears in paradoxes. If someone says there is nothing here, they are still using words to describe something, the absence of what they expect. If nothingness were truly present, there would not even be a way to describe it. Even silence is something. A quiet room still has air molecules vibrating at low levels. A black void still has the possibility of perception because someone must exist to call it nothing. The idea collapses under its own definition. If nothingness is truly nothing, it cannot be observed, named, or defined. If it can be, then it is already something. Think of a blank sheet of paper. It seems empty, but it exists. It has texture, dimensions, and mass. It can be written on, folded, or torn. The paper is not nothing. Even if you burn it to ashes, the material still remains in another form. If you erase all marks, the potential for something remains. Nothingness would mean that even the possibility of something is gone. Religions and spiritual beliefs often address nothingness. Some describe it as an afterlife state where the soul ceases to exist. Others see it as a form of enlightenment where the self dissolves into a greater whole. Some believe nothingness is impossible because existence is eternal, either as consciousness, energy, or spirit. These views show how deeply humans struggle with the idea of nothing. If something once existed, how can it ever truly become nothing? Even in creative fields, nothingness plays a role. Writers, artists, and musicians talk about the blank page, the empty canvas, or the silent pause before music begins. These states feel like nothingness because they hold no content. Yet they are still something, an opportunity, a space where creation can happen. Nothingness would mean no possibility of expression, no medium to work with, no observer to recognize its absence. In daily life, people rarely encounter true nothingness. Every moment is filled with sensation, thought, and presence. Even in deep isolation, there is still the body, the breath, the mind's chatter. If someone sits in a dark room and covers their ears, they might reduce stimulation, but they do not achieve nothingness. They still exist, and existence itself is something. Technology and science fiction often explore nothingness. Some stories imagine realms of absolute void, where no laws of physics apply. Others suggest that nothingness could be a gateway, a place from which something new can emerge. In theoretical physics, the idea of a quantum vacuum suggests that even in the emptiest possible state, particles can appear and disappear due to fluctuations in energy. This implies that true nothingness may never exist, because even the potential for something remains at the most fundamental levels of reality. The mind resists nothingness. People instinctively search for meaning, even in randomness. If someone stares at static on a screen, their brain may detect patterns that are not there. This ability helped humans survive by making sense of a chaotic world. But it also means that recognizing true nothingness may be impossible. If nothingness is beyond perception, beyond thought, beyond being, then it is not just absent, it is unreachable. It exists only as an idea, one that disappears the moment we try to grasp it. Some fear nothingness. They see it as the ultimate end, the final erasure of all they have been. Others find comfort in it, seeing it as a release from suffering. The debate over whether death leads to nothingness or another state of being has shaped cultures, religions, and philosophies. Yet no one can confirm what happens. If nothingness awaits, there will be no one left to experience it. If something remains, then nothingness was never truly there. People try to create nothingness in moments of meditation or deep focus. Some traditions teach practitioners to clear their minds completely, to reach a state of pure awareness without thoughts or distractions. Yet even in these states, awareness itself remains. Consciousness continues. The attempt to experience nothingness only proves its impossibility. The moment it is noticed, it becomes something again. Even language fails to describe nothingness completely. Every word, every explanation brings it into the realm of something. If true nothingness exists, it cannot be defined. It cannot be seen, heard, or known. It is beyond experience, beyond reality, beyond even the concept of existence itself. And if it is truly beyond all things, then perhaps it is not something to be understood, but rather something that simply is, or is not. Eternity is the idea of existence without an end. It stretches beyond time, beyond limits, and beyond anything the mind can fully grasp. It is not just a long time. It is something different, something outside the normal experience of living. A person can think about eternity, but the moment they try to fit it into something familiar, it loses its meaning. Everything people see, everything they touch has a beginning and an end. A tree grows, then it falls. A river flows, then it dries up. Even the mountains, which seem solid and unchanging, will one day be worn down. Everything passes, but eternity does not. Imagine a clock that never stops ticking. Even if the hands wear out, even if the numbers fade, time itself would go on. The clock might break, but time itself does not end. Now take away the clock, take away the hands, take away any way of measuring time. What's left? That is something closer to eternity. It is not just an endless stretch of time, because time itself is a measure of change. Eternity does not change. It is always there, always the same. It is a state, not a span. Religions and philosophies have tried to explain eternity in different ways. Some speak of it as a place, like heaven or an afterlife, where time does not exist. Others see it as a state of being, outside the cycle of birth and death. The idea is comforting to some and terrifying to others. If someone believes in an eternal paradise, they might feel reassured. If they believe in eternal suffering, the thought can be unbearable. Some people avoid thinking about eternity at all because it feels too big, too abstract. A way to understand eternity is to remove the idea of time completely. Imagine a moment frozen forever, not just paused, because a pause suggests that something will continue later. Imagine a moment that simply is, without any before or after. It exists, not as part of a sequence, but as its own thing. This is one way to think about eternity. It does not move forward, because forward means change. It does not go backward, because there is nothing before it. It simply is. The human mind struggles with this idea because everything people know is built on time. People wake up, they eat, they go to work, they sleep. They think in terms of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Even memories work this way. A person remembers being a child, growing older, learning new things. But if eternity exists, then time is just a layer over something deeper. If time stopped, would anything still exist? Would people still be themselves if they had no past or future? Some thinkers have tried to connect eternity with the present moment. If someone focuses only on now, without thinking about what happened before or what will happen next, they might get a small sense of what eternity feels like. A person standing at the edge of the ocean watching the waves roll in might forget about time for a moment. They are not thinking about where the waves started or where they are going. They are just there, existing in that moment. Some say that this is the closest humans can get to touching eternity while still being part of time. Science does not often deal with eternity in the way that philosophy or religion does, but physics has its own ways of describing things that seem eternal. The universe itself is a subject of debate. Some theories suggest that it had a definite beginning with the Big Bang and that it will have an end. Others suggest that the universe might expand forever, or collapse and start again. If something exists outside of time, beyond the physical universe, science has no way of measuring it. The laws of physics describe how things work inside time, but outside of time, those rules may not apply. Even though eternity is difficult to grasp, people still use the word often. They say things like, waiting for an eternity, when they mean something takes a long time. A child waiting for their birthday might feel like time is stretching forever. Someone sitting through a long meeting might think it will never end. But these are not eternity. They are just moments of impatience, stretched by perception. True eternity is not long. It is not short. It simply is. There is also the idea of personal eternity. If a person lives on after death in some form, that could be called eternity. Some believe that their thoughts, their actions, or their influence might continue forever, even if they do not. A writer might hope that their words will be read long after they are gone. A scientist might hope that their discoveries will change the world for generations. In a sense, ideas can be eternal. As long as they are remembered, they do not end. But even ideas fade over time. Languages change, cultures shift, and what seemed permanent can be lost. True eternity is not dependent on memory or influence. It is not something that can be created or destroyed. If eternity exists, it raises many questions. If someone were to experience it, would they be aware of time passing? Would they have thoughts? Thought itself happens in time. One idea leads to another. Without time, would a person still have a mind? Or would they simply exist, without thought, without feeling, without change? Some descriptions of eternity make it sound peaceful, while others make it sound empty. If there is no time, can there be progress? Can there be experience? Can there be anything at all? One way to think about eternity is to compare it to space. Space has no end, or at least no known end. If a person were to travel in one direction forever, would they ever reach the edge? If they reached a boundary, what would be beyond it? The same questions apply to time. If time goes on forever, where does it lead? And if there is an end to time, what is beyond that? If eternity exists outside of time, then it is something else entirely, something that does not move, does not change, and does not end. People often try to make sense of eternity by fitting it into their own experiences. They think of it as a very long time or as an endless cycle. But both of these ideas still rely on time. A truly eternal state does not stretch forward. It does not repeat. It does not move. It is something entirely different, something that cannot be measured or compared to anything else. Even though people cannot fully understand eternity, they continue to wonder about it. It appears in myths, in religions, in science, and in everyday speech. Some find comfort in the idea of living forever, while others find it unsettling. Some believe that nothing is eternal, that everything will eventually come to an end. Others believe that eternity is the only real thing, and that time is just an illusion. Whether eternity is real or just an idea, it remains one of the most difficult and fascinating concepts for people to explore. It challenges the way people think about existence, about time, and about themselves. It is not simply a long stretch of time. It is something beyond time, something outside of all experience, something that cannot be seen, touched, or measured. It is a mystery, and perhaps it always will be. Perception shapes how people understand the world around them. It is the process of taking in information, interpreting it, and forming a view based on that understanding. Everything a person knows or believes comes from perception. It determines how someone sees a situation, reacts to events, and interacts with others. Two people can witness the same event and come away with different interpretations. This happens because perception is not just about what the eyes see or the ears hear. It involves prior knowledge, personal experience, and emotions. Consider a courtroom setting where two witnesses describe a crime. One witness says the suspect was aggressive and threatening. The other claims the suspect looked scared and confused. Both watched the same moment unfold, but they noticed different details. Their backgrounds, beliefs, and personal experiences shaped how they saw the event. One may have had past experiences with aggression that made them more aware of threatening behavior. The other may have known people who were wrongly accused, making them more likely to interpret hesitation as fear rather than guilt. Perception is built from sensory input. The brain takes in sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and physical sensations, then processes this data to create an understanding of reality. However, this process is not objective. The brain fills in gaps and makes judgments based on patterns it has learned over time. Optical illusions show how perception can be misleading. In the Miller-Lyer illusion, two lines of equal length appear different because of the arrow-like shapes at the ends. The brain interprets the angles as depth cues, causing one line to look longer. Even when someone knows the truth, their brain still perceives the illusion. Context changes perception. A warm day feels different in winter than in summer. A whisper in a quiet room seems louder than the same whisper in a noisy crowd. If someone expects to hear a certain word in a song, they might hear it even if the actual lyrics are different. This is known as top-down processing, where prior knowledge influences perception. The opposite, bottom-up processing, occurs when perception is driven purely by new sensory information. Most experiences involve a mix of both. Cultural background influences perception in subtle ways. A gesture that means friendliness in one culture might be offensive in another. In some societies, direct eye contact shows confidence and respect, while in others it can seem rude or aggressive. Language also plays a role. Certain languages have words that describe emotions or experiences in ways that others do not. Someone who speaks a language with distinct words for different types of love may perceive relationships differently than someone whose language groups all love under one word. Perception affects how people judge others. First impressions form quickly, often within seconds. These initial perceptions guide interactions and decisions. If a person looks confident, others may assume they are competent. If someone appears nervous, they may be seen as unprepared. These judgments happen automatically, shaped by past experiences and cultural norms. Stereotypes arise from this process. When people rely on past patterns to form assumptions, they sometimes misjudge individuals. Memory and perception are closely connected. People often believe they remember past events exactly as they happened, but memories change over time. The brain does not store experiences like a video recording. Instead, it reconstructs memories each time they are recalled. New information, emotions, and outside influences reshape the details. A childhood memory may seem vivid, but parts of it may have been altered or filled in over the years. This is why eyewitness testimony is not always reliable. A person may be certain about what they saw, but their perception may have been influenced by fear, expectations, or misleading questions. Perception also influences decision-making. Imagine a driver waiting at a red light. Another car stops beside them, playing loud music. If the driver is already in a bad mood, they might see this as inconsiderate and rude. If they are in a good mood, they may view it as someone simply enjoying their day. The same event can feel different depending on a person's emotional state. This is because perception filters experiences through emotion, shaping how events are understood. Marketing relies on perception to shape consumer choices. A product in sleek, minimalist packaging seems high-end, even if the quality is the same as a product in simpler packaging. A price increase can make an item seem more valuable, even if nothing has changed. Words influence perception as well. A restaurant menu that describes dishes with sensory details, like juicy, flame-grilled steak instead of just steak, can make food seem more appealing before a single bite is taken. Perception plays a role in relationships. If someone believes a friend is reliable, they will interpret their actions through that lens. If the friend cancels plans, they might assume it was unavoidable rather than careless. If they already doubt the friend's reliability, they may see the same cancellation as proof of unreliability. Confirmation bias reinforces existing beliefs by filtering information to match expectations. This is why two people in a disagreement often feel certain they are right. They each perceive the situation in a way that supports their viewpoint. Technology alters perception in new ways. Social media creates curated versions of reality. Photos, posts, and videos highlight the best moments while leaving out the mundane or difficult parts. This affects how people perceive their own lives compared to others. A person scrolling through images of vacations, celebrations, and achievements may feel that their own experiences fall short, even though they are only seeing a selective portion of reality. This can shape self-perception and mental well-being. Perception shifts over time. A song that once felt exciting may later seem nostalgic. A childhood home that once felt huge may seem small when revisited as an adult. The way a person perceives their own abilities and worth also changes. Confidence can grow or shrink based on experiences. A person who once feared public speaking may later find it easy, not because the task changed, but because their perception of their ability did. Perception extends beyond individuals and shapes entire societies. Historical events are remembered differently depending on who tells the story. Two nations may view the same war in completely different ways. Textbooks, media, and political narratives all shape collective perception. This is why debates over history and representation are so important. The way events are framed affects how they are understood by future generations. Understanding perception can improve communication. Misunderstandings often happen because people assume others see things the same way they do. If someone explains an idea and another person reacts negatively, the issue may not be the idea itself, but how it was perceived. A message can be clear to the speaker but confusing to the listener. This is why tone, wording, and context matter in conversations. Recognizing that others may perceive things differently helps prevent conflicts and build stronger connections. Since perception is influenced by so many factors, it is important to question it. Asking why something appears a certain way, considering alternative viewpoints, and recognizing biases help refine understanding. Perception is not fixed. It changes with experience, knowledge, and self-awareness. What once seemed obvious can later appear completely different. Recognizing this makes it possible to approach the world with more openness and understanding. Creation is the act of bringing something into existence. It happens every day, in small and large ways, shaping the world as we know it. A sculptor chips away at a block of marble, turning raw stone into a recognizable form. A writer fills a blank page, forming sentences that tell a story. A parent teaches a child to tie their shoes, passing on knowledge that will last a lifetime. In each case, something that did not exist before takes shape, becoming real through action and effort. The process of creation starts with an idea. Sometimes this idea appears suddenly, like a spark lighting up in the mind. Other times it emerges after long periods of thought, trial, and error. The idea alone is not enough. it needs to be translated into something tangible. This can happen through words, materials, or even movement. A carpenter sketches a design before cutting wood. A musician hums a melody before writing down the notes. The transition from idea to form is where creation happens. Tools and resources play a role in creation, but they do not define it. A painter can use expensive brushes and canvases, or they can use a stick to draw in the dirt. A filmmaker can work with a big budget and advanced equipment, or they can use a phone to record a scene. The essence of creation is not in the tools, but in the intent and action. The same principle applies across all forms of making, whether it is building a bridge, designing software, or developing a theory. Creation involves effort and persistence. A person rarely produces something complete and perfect in a single attempt. A novelist rewrites drafts, a composer adjusts notes, a chef refines a recipe through tasting and tweaking. The first version is often flawed, but flaws provide direction for improvement. The act of revising, refining, and reworking is just as much a part of creation as the initial idea. Failure is common in creation. Many attempts do not lead to the desired outcome. A scientist might test a hypothesis dozens of times before finding a result that holds up. An architect might design multiple versions of a structure before landing on one that fits. These failures are not wasted efforts. They provide information that shapes the final result. Each mistake reveals something new. Without them, progress would be slow or impossible. Creativity often flourishes within constraints. Limits force people to think differently and adapt. A poet following a strict rhyme scheme must find words that fit the pattern. An engineer working with limited materials must design within those boundaries. Constraints can seem like obstacles, but they also push the mind towards solutions it might not have considered otherwise. Some of the greatest inventions and works of art emerged from necessity rather than unlimited freedom. Creation is influenced by what came before. Every new idea builds on previous knowledge and experiences. A novelist draws inspiration from older stories. A scientist refines earlier research. A chef combines ingredients in new ways based on traditional recipes. Even when something seems original, it often carries traces of past influences. A new song might remind people of an older tune, even if the melody and lyrics are different. A modern building might take inspiration from ancient structures, using new materials but following old principles. Creation does not happen in isolation. It is part of a continuous flow of ideas and developments. The act of making something is often deeply personal. A person's experiences, thoughts, and emotions shape what they create. A painter's brushstrokes reveal their mood. A poet's words reflect their perspective. Even in technical fields, personal choices influence the outcome. A software developer chooses a particular approach based on their past projects. A scientist focuses on a research question that interests them personally. Every act of creation carries a part of its maker. Collaboration plays a role in many creative efforts. While some people create alone, others work in teams. A film requires actors, directors, screenwriters, and editors. A scientific breakthrough often results from the work of multiple researchers. A building exists because architects, engineers, and construction workers bring their skills together. Even solitary creators are influenced by others. A writer is shaped by the books they have read. A musician is inspired by the sounds they have heard. Ideas spread and evolve through shared efforts. Some forms of creation leave physical evidence, while others are temporary. A painting or a book can last for centuries. A performance, like a dance or a speech, exists only in the moment. Even temporary acts of creation have impact. A conversation can change someone's thinking. A meal, though eaten and gone, can bring comfort or joy. Not all creations need to last forever to have meaning. Innovation is a type of creation that changes how things are done. It introduces something new that improves or replaces what came before. The telephone allowed people to communicate over long distances in a way letters could not. The airplane made travel across continents faster than ever before. Innovation often comes from seeing possibilities that others have overlooked. It requires a willingness to question existing methods and experiment with alternatives. Creation happens in every field, not just in art and science. A teacher creates an environment where students can learn. A doctor creates a treatment plan that helps a patient recover. A business owner creates a service that meets a need. No matter the context, the process involves bringing something new into the world that did not exist before in that form. Some acts of creation happen quickly, while others take years. A sketch can be drawn in minutes. A novel can take a decade to write. The timeline does not determine the value of the creation. A short poem can be just as powerful as a long book. A single photograph can capture more emotion than a lengthy film. The impact of creation is not measured by the time spent, but by the effect it has. The motivation behind creation varies. Some people create for self-expression. Others create to solve problems. Some do it for personal fulfillment, while others seek recognition or financial gain. Regardless of the reason, creation brings change. It turns possibilities into reality. It shapes the world, whether in small, everyday actions or in groundbreaking achievements. Creation does not always require special talent or skill. Anyone can make something new, whether it is a work of art, a solution to a problem, or a new way of thinking. The ability to create is not limited to professionals or experts. A child building a sandcastle, a person writing a letter, or someone cooking a meal is engaging in creation. The act itself is what matters, not the scale or complexity of the result. Every creation carries a part of the person who made it. It reflects their choices, thoughts, and influences. The act of making something is an expression of human capability. Whether through words, materials, or ideas, creation continues to shape and define the world around us. Destruction happens when something breaks, falls apart, or is ruined beyond repair. It can be sudden, like a building collapsing in an earthquake, or slow, like rust eating away at metal over time. It can be deliberate, like demolishing an old house, or accidental, like knocking over a glass of water onto a laptop. No matter the form, destruction leaves something changed, usually in a way that cannot be undone. Fire is one of the most common forces of destruction. A single spark can turn a whole forest into ash. It moves fast, consuming everything in its path. Firefighters battle flames to keep them from spreading, but once a fire starts, stopping it is hard. Even when the fire dies down, the damage remains: charred trees, blackened buildings, and ruined landscapes. The same thing happens in homes and cities. If a kitchen fire spreads, it can gut an entire house. People who lose everything in a fire face a long road to rebuilding, if they can rebuild at all. Water also destroys, but in a different way. Floods sweep away cars, houses, and roads, leaving behind mud and wreckage. When a hurricane hits, it pushes water inland, overwhelming entire towns. Water gets into everything, soaking walls, destroying furniture, and making buildings unsafe. After floodwaters recede, mold takes over. The damage lingers long after the water is gone. Even something as simple as a leaking pipe can destroy a home, rotting wood and weakening the structure from the inside. Nature has many ways of breaking things down. Wind tears roofs off houses and uproots trees. Earthquakes crack roads, topple bridges, and leave buildings in ruins. In a few minutes, something that took years to build can turn into rubble. Tornadoes rip through neighborhoods, leaving behind piles of debris. Afterward, people sift through what is left, hoping to find anything still intact. Destruction is not always caused by nature. People destroy things, sometimes by mistake and sometimes on purpose. War is one of the most extreme examples. Bombs flatten cities, homes, and hospitals. Entire neighborhoods disappear. After a war, the ruins stand as reminders of what once was. Even when fighting stops, the effects of destruction last for generations. People lose not just buildings, but also history, culture, and a sense of home. Even outside of war, people break things. Buildings get demolished to make space for new ones. Sometimes this happens with care, like when workers take down an old bridge piece by piece. Other times it happens with force, like when a wrecking ball smashes into a building, sending dust and debris into the air. Construction crews plan for these kinds of destruction, making sure it happens in a controlled way. But sometimes things go wrong. A miscalculated explosion brings down the wrong structure, or a planned demolition sends debris flying farther than expected. Technology also plays a role in destruction. Factories and machines wear down materials over time. Cars break apart in accidents, leaving twisted metal behind. Phones, computers, and other electronics don't last forever. Screens crack, batteries fail, and circuits fry. In some cases, companies design products to break down after a certain time. forcing people to replace them. This kind of destruction is subtle, but it adds up. Old electronics pile up in landfills, their parts corroding and leaking chemicals into the soil. Destruction is not always physical. It can happen to ideas, relationships, and ways of life. A business can be destroyed by bad decisions or changing times. A family can fall apart after years of conflict. Friendships can break down due to mistrust. In these cases, the damage is not seen but felt. People lose jobs, connections, and stability. Unlike a broken window or a fallen tree, these losses don't have clear fixes. They take time and effort to rebuild, and sometimes they can't be repaired at all. Some destruction is necessary. Farmers burn old crops to enrich the soil for new growth. Controlled demolitions clear space for better structures. Even in personal life, letting go of something can make room for something new. But destruction often comes with loss. When an old building is torn down, history disappears with it. When a forest burns, animals lose their homes. When a relationship ends, it leaves scars. Despite its finality, destruction is not always the end. Ruins can be rebuilt, lost things can be replaced. But even when something is restored, it is never exactly the same. The marks of destruction remain, shaping what comes next. A paradox is a statement or situation that contradicts itself but may still be true. It challenges logic and forces people to think beyond simple answers. Some paradoxes are playful and meant to confuse. Others reveal deep truths about how the world works. Imagine a person saying, "I always lie." If that statement is true, then they must be lying. But if they are lying, then the statement must be false. This contradiction creates a loop that has no clear resolution. It's an example of a self-referential paradox. The statement folds in on itself, making it impossible to determine whether it is true or false. Some paradoxes expose flaws in human reasoning. Consider the barber paradox. A barber claims he shaves all men who do not shave themselves. But does he shave himself? If he does, then he must not shave himself. If he doesn't, then he must shave himself. This logical contradiction makes it impossible to determine an answer. The paradox is not just about barbers, but about the limitations of rules that define themselves. Zeno's paradoxes show how logic can conflict with common sense. One of his most famous examples is Achilles and the tortoise. Achilles, a fast runner, gives a slow-moving tortoise a small head start in a race. Logically, Achilles should overtake the tortoise, but Zeno argues otherwise. He claims that Achilles must first reach the spot where the tortoise started. By the time he gets there, the tortoise has moved a little further. Achilles must then reach that new position. But every time he does, the tortoise moves again. This process repeats infinitely. Zeno's argument suggests that Achilles never catches up, even though experience tells us he will. This paradox raises questions about the nature of time and motion. Paradoxes are not limited to words or thought experiments. They appear in mathematics, physics, and philosophy. In mathematics, Russell's paradox challenges the idea of self-inclusion. Imagine a library with a rule that states it will include all books that do not reference themselves. Should the catalog of this library be included in itself? If it is, then it shouldn't be. If it isn't, then it should be. This paradox led to the development of new logical foundations for mathematics. In physics, paradoxes highlight the strange nature of reality. The twin paradox in Einstein's theory of relativity is one example. It describes a scenario in which one twin travels through space at high speed while the other stays on Earth. When the traveling twin returns, they find that they have aged less than their sibling. At first, this seems impossible. How can two people who started at the same age end up aging differently? The answer lies in how time slows down at high speeds, a key insight in modern physics. Another paradox in physics is Schrödinger's cat. This thought experiment involves a cat inside a box with a mechanism that has a 50% chance of releasing poison. Until someone opens the box, the cat is considered both alive and dead. This paradox illustrates the weirdness of quantum mechanics, where particles can exist in multiple states at once. It challenges the way people think about reality. Paradoxes also exist in everyday life. Consider the statement, "less is more." At first glance, it makes no sense. Less and more are opposites. Yet the phrase carries wisdom. It suggests that simplicity can lead to greater impact. A simple design might be more powerful than a complex one. A short speech might be more effective than a long one. This paradox reveals that contradictions can hold deeper truths. Another common paradox is the catch-22. The term comes from a novel of the same name. In the story, pilots can only be excused from flying dangerous missions if they are insane, but wanting to avoid danger is a sign of sanity. This means no one can be declared insane and escape flying. A catch-22 describes a no-win situation where rules trap a person in a loop. Many people experience this in real life. A person needs experience to get a job, but needs a job to gain experience. A bank only gives loans to those who don't need them. These situations create frustration and show how paradoxes can shape reality. Paradoxes appear in decision-making. The liar paradox is a famous example. A person says this statement is false. If it's true, then it must be false. If it's false, then it must be true. This logical loop makes it impossible to decide what to believe. A similar problem occurs in situations where a person must choose between two equally bad options. If a company must cut costs but doing so reduces profits, it faces a paradoxical decision. No matter what choice it makes, there is a contradiction. Some paradoxes play with expectations. The Monty Hall problem is a probability puzzle that defies intuition. A game show contestant picks one of 3 doors. Behind one door is a car, while the other 2 have goats. After the contestant picks, the host, who knows what is behind each door, opens one of the remaining doors to reveal a goat. The contestant can then switch to the other unopened door or stay with their choice. Most people assume the odds are 50-50, but switching actually increases the chances of winning. The paradox is that the obvious answer is wrong, and the correct answer is counterintuitive. Paradoxes influence psychology. The paradox of choice suggests that having too many options can lead to worse decisions. Common sense says that more choices should be better. But research shows that too many options create anxiety and regret. A person shopping for a product may feel overwhelmed by choices. Instead of being happy with their selection, they might worry that they made the wrong one. This paradox highlights the complexity of human decision-making. Another psychological paradox is the hedonic treadmill. It suggests that people adapt to changes in happiness. A person who wins the lottery may feel excited at first, but over time, they return to their previous level of happiness. The same happens with negative events. A person who loses a job may feel sad, but they eventually recover. This paradox shows how happiness remains constant despite external changes. Philosophy is full of paradoxes that question the nature of reality. The ship of Theseus is a well-known thought experiment. Imagine a ship with wooden planks. Over time, the planks are replaced one by one. Eventually, every plank is new. Is it still the same ship? Now imagine that someone takes the old planks and rebuilds the ship elsewhere. Which one is the real ship of Theseus? This paradox explores the nature of identity and change. Some paradoxes appear in social behavior. The prisoner's dilemma is a classic example. 2 suspects are arrested and interrogated separately. If both stay silent, they get a light sentence. If one betrays the other, the betrayer goes free, while the other receives a harsh sentence. If both betray each other, they both get medium sentences. The best outcome for both is to stay silent, but fear of betrayal leads many to confess. This paradox reveals how rational decisions can lead to worse outcomes for everyone involved. Paradoxes shape literature, politics, and economics. They expose contradictions in systems and force people to question assumptions. They appear in logic, physics, and everyday situations. They reveal flaws in reasoning, expose hidden truths, and challenge intuition. Some create humor, while others lead to serious discussions about reality and choice. Paradoxes remind people that the world is not always what it seems.